Warning, this episode contains spoilers for all seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, as well as the comic series. Welcome to another episode of The Vassals of Kingsgrave. I'm your host, Kevin, also known as Gaiden on the forums. Joining me for this discussion today is Donna.
Taindana on the forums.
Jock.
Munrojock on the forums.
And Adam.
Hey, it's Adam, DrownedSnow on the forums.
And for this episode, we will be discussing the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, created by Joss Whedon back in the dark ages of the late 1990s. This is back before we had Wi-Fi, smartphones, and Netflix. All we had was dial-up internet, and I honestly don't know how we survived. It ran for 5 seasons.
And libraries.
In libraries, yes.
2 phone loans.
That's where the books live. It ran for 5 seasons on the WB and moved to the UPN network for the final 2 seasons. It had one spinoff called Angel, which ran for 5 seasons. The show, when it came out, was a huge hit. It changed television. It changed pop culture. It introduced us to what they called Buffy speak, which is this very unique, quirky way the characters talk to one another. It was very revolutionary. It was a very revolutionary bit of storytelling in that it subverted the typical tropes of the horror genre. Buffy, the Valley Girl cheerleader, would be the first person to die in a horror movie, or the second if there were no black people around. But Joss Whedon's intent was to take that character.
Sorry.
But,
yeah, that's
Joss Whedon's
horrifically true.
It is true. That's how things went back in the 1990s. He wanted to take the character, the blonde who runs helplessly down an alley and gets cornered by a demon or serial killer, and have her fight back, and to have her be the hero. So now I want to go around and ask you all, how did you get into the show, and when? Did you watch it when it first came out or later? Did you watch Angel? And did you read the comics or any of the other extended universe material? I guess we can start with Donna.
When it first came out, I think I was in late primary school and an absolute coward, so I accidentally saw an episode and there was scary things and I turned it off. And then my first job when I was 14 ended up being at a video store, and I worked with 2 massive Buffy fans. They went to a Comic-Con over East just to meet Giles and Spike and had photos with them, so they lent me their DVDs. So I actually got to binge watch Buffy DVD style, and absolutely loved it. And yeah, I don't think I finished Angel, but I recently rewatched the first into season 4, I feel with my partner, because he'd never watched Buffy, and I'm like, oh my god, you're missing out, this is fantastic. So yeah, got to watch it as a teenager, which I guess is the best time to watch Buffy, because you just feel really bad that you can't speak like that. And you're a smartass, but not a Whedon-verse smartass.
Yeah.
Which is always so harsh. Reality is so harsh. But yeah, I just really loved it. Up until I have issues with season 4 onwards, but the first 3 seasons are just so solid, just so good. And still have nightmares over Hosh.
Oh yes, one of the best episodes. So did you read any of the books that were with associated with the show, or the comics or anything like that? I know we just talked about it, but for the main episode, did you get into that? I think
with maybe the first comic for season 8 was okay, Dawn's massive, Xander's hitting on Dawn. This is weird. I'm out. And that was when Josh was still involved in the comics, I think. Because I think the latest season he just had to tick off, but maybe season 8 and season 9 he was still writing.
I believe so, and I guess that's a testament of him as a good writer, a creator, because when he leaves Buffy, things go downhill very quickly, and that's what happened with the show, I think. But that's something I think we'll get into with season 5 or 4 and onward. Yeah. But
well, like even in the season 2 and season 3, I remember, because I watched the director's commentary as well, because you gotta love DVDs for all the special features. But the writers were saying, like, when he had to do like the full showrunner stuff and he couldn't be in the writing room every time, he could actually tell when they were like, oh, Willow needs more to do in this episode, or just more speak. Like, we'll just give her some of Xander's lines, and he'll be like, why did you give Xander's line to Willow? Like, I can tell these were Xander's originally. Like, go back, write it in Willow. Like, so he knows his characters really well, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, these are some very unique, incredible characters. They stand the test of time. Like, you can look at the show even to this day and like relate to them. I guess that's one thing that made it so popular, how he took high school and using demons and other dark forces, use them as metaphors for things that teenagers go through in their actual life. So yeah, high school was hell. But going over to Jock.
Yeah, and that's even in like the first. Oh, sorry, I was about to talk about hyenas. It's fine. We can talk about that in season 1.
Oh no, this is cool. But yeah, let me get Jock to. How did you get into the show and your experience, if you had any, with the comics and books?
I got into the show as sort of mixed pieces, mostly from the sort of middle seasons on reruns on TV as a kid. I didn't really binge them until I was like a teenager. I'm not sure, maybe if I had binged them at first, I may have stopped sort of watching, because season 1 isn't my favourite season, but the middle ones are.
Yeah, season 1 it's really hard to sell the show to new watchers, because season 1 and season 2, they look incredibly dated. Like, they look like they're from the 1990s. So it's really, and the action, the direction, the music, it's all so very 90s. And it's hard to have someone go from like watching Daredevil to watching like season 1 of Buffy, because it's full of that really awful American martial arts that's telegraphed and slow and full of backflips and unnecessary spins. And the CGI season 1 is really dense, but I always say it's really worth it watching season 1 and 2 to get to the rest, because it's all great. But yeah, did you read the comics or any of the books, like the Tales of the Slayer novels?
No, I haven't read any of those.
Okay, yeah, I didn't read the Tales of the Slayer novels either. I read the Wikipedia for them, and they sound interesting, but I don't think I really want to. I mean, I like Buffy, but not enough to read a novel that's semi-canonical to the, is that how you say that word? Semi-canon to the actual series. Now, Adam, how did you get into Buffy? Did you watch it when it first came out? Did you watch it after? Did you read any of the extended material?
Yeah, so no, I never read any of the comics or anything. I just saw them kind of in the comic book store sometimes, and I read a little bit of Wikipedia. That was about it. Just because after the shows ended, I was like, oh, what happened? So one day I did that. But I think I started probably in the middle of season 1 when it was airing, and I was like, what is this? So I don't remember exactly what the episode was, but I missed a good portion of that. And then I caught a few episodes here and there, and then it was probably season 2 where I really when it came back, I picked it up and was like really into it. Just because it was one of those things at the time where, like you're saying, they've got these kids in high school and they're treating their issues kind of seriously. But, most stuff targeted towards, kids and teens at the time was, I don't know, just kind of very basic and childish. And so, I mean, this was just very different. And also, the way the characters talked, obviously, but, the issues they dealt with, life and death. And it was just a ton of fun. And, I still think to this day, it's probably the way they portray vampires is one of the better ones. They're scary. They have motivations or reasons why they're evil. They can't just walk around in the sun and glitter, stuff like that.
Yeah, I do like this universe's way they portray vampires because, well, for anyone listening that hasn't watched the show, it's not like Twilight or even Dracula or any other, like, what do you call it? The Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles, where they look human and they just have pointy fangs. When a vampire in this story is ready to feed, their face sort of changes.
They go like Klingon.
Yeah, like the ridges down the forehead or into their nose. They look like a vampire bat, kind of. And that's when you know they're serious, they're angry. But usually they look human, but when it's time to vamp out, they turn Klingon.
Yeah, and I like that it's kind of more. It's not just about the fact that they have the hunger and the thirst, but also like their souls have been taken away, and there's a lot of demons and a lot of stuff that kind of goes along with that, which is pretty cool. But I mean, I think I almost stopped watching. What was it, like season 5, because they had that finale before they went to UPN, and they were like the series finale. It was like a big deal, and even though like they were already going to be making the next season, so. It was kind of weird, but I did end up watching the other 2 seasons, which were mixed.
Yeah, I also remember the big series finale campaign on the WB, but I also remember being and walking down the street and seeing a big billboard with Buffy's hand coming out of the ground saying "Buffy lives." It's like, what are you? I don't get it. Like you're showing your hand already. She's alive. I'm not going to buy that she's dead. But yeah, the switch over to UPN was
right.
I'm not sure. The quality of the show did go down for reasons we'll get into when we get into season 6 and 7. But season 5 was one of the stronger seasons. Me personally,
yeah, it was just such a weird thing. I don't know. The TV landscape was so different back then. Like nowadays, if a show like we get how many shows do we get like this nowadays? We get a bunch. But if we had a show that was as unique and well done at this with fairly decent numbers, like it would have gone to streaming or something with a higher budget instead of like going to a lower network.
It definitely felt like they went to the UPN and they lost money because it just feels the set design, the action, the creature design, it just all seemed cheap. If that's the best word to use for it.
Yeah.
It felt scaled down.
The budget definitely took a hit. And the funny part is that, not long after that, then like UPN and CBS owned UPN, and then that turns into the CW from the WB. And then you had like I guess Veronica Mars was one of those shows that kind of did the reverse. It started on UPN that was pretty good, and then when they switched over, kind of faded after that. But that was a whole weird time for networks.
Yeah, it came out, like I said, in the early 90s and ended in the early 2000s. It definitely was in that weird between times where things were getting more refined with storytelling. Like the way that this show handles its plot from episode to episode, season to season, we don't really get shows like this anymore. Well, maybe I don't watch a lot of television shows that would be like Buffy, like what we were talking about, Teen Wolf. I guess what was the originals or the Vampire Diaries. So I'm not quite sure how they do stories now, but I don't see a lot of shows with the monster of the week concept or the one villain per season, or shows that don't have or rather shows that have a major arc that they know how they're going to end it from season 1, episode 1 to the end. You can tell with Buffy that they were kind of just making it up as they went along. And I think shows these days are more overwritten. Right.
Yeah, they've got that more like linear progression where they have a plan, and less episodic most of these type of shows.
Yeah, we don't get much. It's more like the X-Files or like your earlier Star Trek episodes where everything is kind of resolved by the end of the episode and the world is back to normal.
And then you'd have like the stinger at the end with the big bad for the season, right? You're like, oh, that story's still going, kind of in the back of your head. Whereas a lot of TV shows now, like half the episode is usually that sort of like overarching story, and then you might have kind of a monster of the week sort of thing a little bit. Like I think like Supernatural or something might still do that.
Oh yeah, Supernatural.
Yeah, I think,
that show.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I think some of the early seasons of Supernatural reminded me of Buffy a lot. You had the monsters of the week, but then you had like a big bad for the entire season, and within episodes they were dealing with their monster of the week, but also the big bad of the season. And
Well, they kind of kept that the whole thing. They're clearly inspired by Buffy.
Oh yeah, I definitely tried to watch that show because it reminded me of Buffy so much, but it's something about it. It didn't catch me. I'm not saying it was
it's not
boring.
nearly as charming.
Yeah, it doesn't have any like uniqueness to it. There's nothing about them. There's no Buffy speak. There's no clever dialogue. They're just guys going around killing demons.
Hey, bro. What's wrong with guys broing out? All right, bro. I'll say the first 5 seasons of that show were really good, and then everything else is kind of hit or miss. But
it's been on the air for like 20 years. It's like,
how are they still alive?
Yeah.
Like the cool young college age, hunters. You're like, no, dude, you guys are like 40. I think there's like episodes where they're like watching their cholesterol and shit now. So.
Because it got to be like, because it started when he was in college, and now it's been like 20 years later, and they're still, yeah, what the hell? But I guess another show that was kind of like Buffy that I am watching now is Grimm.
I only watched a few episodes of that. Are you enjoying it?
I do like it, but at the same time, I know that it's written by one of the people that worked on Buffy, and I like it, but again, it doesn't have Buffy's charm, or it doesn't have like a really uniqueness about it that says, "Oh, this is a very distinctive show." It's just a bro
the
killing.
characters aren't as relatable.
No,
But I do like the quotes at the beginning of episodes.
yeah, that's cool. Every episode begins with a Grimm fairy tale quote or a poem or something. And the way that they have the demons on that show, like when they become demons, it's just like the vampires. Their faces change to whatever they are. I like the lore of it, but it's again, it's not Buffy, so it's not really. I watch some episodes and I just forget to finish it. I'm still not done.
Yeah, nowadays you're just not going to find anything on network that gives them the freedom to do stuff like this. And I mean, a big part of that is because network is still trying to play to the older and retired community that just sit around watching TV all night and don't understand that you can watch your TV whenever you want. So, I think that's just kind of unfortunate, but I mean, that's why there's streaming and premium and all that, or where you'll find lots of stuff like this now.
Yeah.
And I also think like Buffy was the only one of those kind of like supernatural shows where it was very explicit that the demons and the bad guys, they had their own lives outside of being staked and hunted. They had their bars and they interacted with each other, and they had their own pettiness going on, where so many shows now, they just kind of pop up and they're killed and then they're gone, and they don't seem to have anything else going besides just waiting to be killed.
Yeah, they're kind of just antagonists. They're just evil for the sake of being evil for that episode. They don't have personality, and it's just, again, they're not strongly written characters like on this show. With something we have like Spike and Drusilla and Harmony, and even the mayor, who was a very funny character. But yeah, this show did a very good job with like humanizing or giving a sympathetic light to the enemies on the show. Well, let me say, I started watching the show when it first came out. I even remember when they did the marketing campaign for this. If anyone remembers the commercials they had, where there were like these sepia tone photos of like older women, and there was a narrator, and he would say something like, in 1885, the town of I don't know what, there were a lot of disappearances, and that all ended when Lucy Hanover came to town. And I remember watching these commercials and thinking, what the hell is this show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer? And it turned out to be my favorite show of all time. I don't rewatch it all the time. I don't rewatch it like every year or every week like some people watch The Office, but I do come back to certain episodes and certain scenes on YouTube, and I just remember watching it for the very first time. It was just the greatest thing. It's one of my first experiences with sci-fi fantasy. I'm ashamed to say I wrote fan fiction to this.
Goodness, where was
You're
this
not
posted?
sharing? Yeah.
Fanfiction.net,
is it?
scour the internet clean. I never shared it.
GeoCities.
I didn't have did I have a GeoCities site? No, not for Buffy.
Is it on like a
something else.
LiveJournal account?
No, oh my God. I wrote 2 fan films, that never got produced. How many people listen to this podcast?
Not enough to make your dreams come true.
Okay.
Yeah.
But hopefully not enough to
send them
shame
on
me.
because they are going to remake Buffy. Who knows?
Oh, yes, that's something I really
Do you all use your real name on this? I don't use my real name on this.
My real name's Officer Balthazar.
Yeah. But
Yeah, but I think what was the other show? Oh, Charmed. It was the other show that was like kind of on at the same time, Supernatural, whatever, and was just like not anywhere near as good.
I like how we're almost an hour in and no one has mentioned the Buffy movie.
oh yeah.
Movie?
The movie.
Oh, right. Yeah. The Christy Swanson or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Donald Sutherland? Oh no, Luke Perry. Yeah. R.I.P. to him.
Don't tell me
Luke
Donald Sutherland has died, because wait, did he die a while ago and I just didn't pay attention?
No, he's still kicking around, but yeah, Luke Perry just passed.
Excellent.
The movie is, I understand that when he set out to, I read the original script, it was much darker and more complex than the show was, than the movie was. It's not something I rewatch at all. I think I've seen it maybe 2 times in my life, and it's not awful.
Yeah, once is enough. It's clearly like a prototype for this, and it doesn't even feel like he wrote it, honestly, because if they probably hacked it up so much, being the early 90s, it doesn't even feel like it's by the same people.
Donna, have you seen the movie?
I feel like I have, because I kind of remember the final scene in the gymnasium, was it?
Yeah, with when she's like does a bunch of backflips and gets into fights, and she burns it down. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of mentioned in maybe the first episode or 2 of Buffy, and then Snyder mentions that she burnt down her previous school's gym, and she's like, "What you gonna do?"
Yeah, it's sort of semi-canon to the show. Yeah, she mentions
that's right.
it. Yeah. So, Jock, have you seen the movie?
I haven't. I didn't know one existed.
Yeah, it came out before the show. Josh, he first wrote the movie before the show. He had a darker, more. It's still humorous. It's very. There's a lot of dark humor in it, but his take on it was not what the movie became, and he was very upset with that. So once he got the opportunity, he re-envisioned it, or reinterpreted the story and wrote it for television, and that's how we got the movie. That's how we got the television show.
Yeah, I will say the best thing about the movie is Pee Wee Herman. That's the bad guy. That's probably the best part of the movie.
That's the only thing I remember, the scene where he gets staked and he's like, "Ooh, ow!" That death scene that's all.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny,
was
man.
this before or after they found him masturbating in a cinema?
Oh gosh.
I feel like shortly before. I don't know the date on that. I do remember when that happened, but let's go to the Google on that.
But as we Google the sex crimes of Pee Wee Herman, talking about the movie can bring us into season 1. I do want to go see. We're almost an hour in, but I do want to go season by season, talking about some of the things that happened. Season 1, the big bad of that season is the Master, who is a centuries-old vampire that is trapped within a cathedral beneath Sunnydale. Because it is a building full of religious objects, he's constantly uncomfortable, and he wants to escape. But to escape, he would have to do a magic ritual, which would open the mouth of hell, and that's going to be bad for everybody. Season 1, of course, is when the show first starts, and Buffy moves to Sunnydale after the events of the movie, which is kind of semi-canon. She burnt her school's gymnasium down to kill a bunch of vampires, which got her kicked out of school. And so her parents divorced. Her mother said, let's move town and start a new life, because we fucked up here. So let's go to Sunnydale, and Buffy thinks that her life is going to be better because she thinks she's escaped her destiny as Slayer. Unfortunately, Sunnydale was built on a hellmouth, which means lots of vampires like to come there and other demons. So she has to be the Slayer again. Let's go around talking favorite episode, least favorite episode. What things did you like about the season, what you didn't? Donna?
So Pee Wee Herman was like arrested in July 1991, and filming for the Buffy film started in the fall of 1991. So that's after July.
Yeah,
right?
so would have been right around that time.
It was right after.
And they were like, "Yeah, we gotta have this guy. Gotta have him perfect." Yeah. I mean,
He's good at handling.
he was arrested for. I mean, the whole thing is kind of silly. You know, you go to. I don't know why you go to a theater to watch porn, especially. I mean, nowadays you wouldn't, but you know, someone goes to a theater to watch porn, and he does what people do when they watch porn. I thought like they have like private booths or something at those places. I don't know. Who knows? It's a much different time.
Yeah, we all have Pornhub now. I mean, if you're in a porno, for any young listeners, people used to play porno in theaters. You would have to go buy a ticket and watch it. And Mr. Herman got caught polishing his steak in one of these theaters. And he got arrested, which is not fair because it's a porno theater. What do you expect to happen?
Right. It's crazy too because I mean, you think about it back then. I mean, even he was fairly successful and all that, but I mean, VCRs were extremely expensive, and finding stuff like this, you know, to rent was probably not always as easy or whatever. So, you know, I don't think they still show porn in theaters. Doesn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. But I guess it was pretty common for a while there because, you know, where else were you going to show this stuff? But, you know. I mean, it's just one of those sorts of things where people in Hollywood probably do all kinds of weird things. It's just whether or not the wrong person happens to see it. Yeah.
The wrong person happens to be a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What were you doing in that theater? I don't know.
What were you doing in that theater?
I'm just enjoying the cinema.
What I'm doing right now just means I really appreciate what's happening. Like, you should be glad I'm glad we got to the root of Pee Wee Herman's sex crimes. But this whole section, I'm leaving this in for this episode. But bringing it back to Buffy.
Okay, season 1.
Donna, favorite episode, least favorite?
I think my favorite episode is the hyena one. Mm-hmm. So that's the one where Xander. It's essentially the peer pressure episode. I enjoyed some of the characters that they introduced. Like you have Jenny, who's a techno-Wiccan, which I thought was a really cool thing for like the late 90s, where she was like, yeah, I practice magic on computers.
Mm-hmm.
And
so she was a hacker from any other movie.
But with magic.
Yeah. And the computer stuff back then, it's no, no, that's not how you do things. Anyway, bless them. But I do think season 1 is worth it just for setting up the characters. I think the best part is like Prophecy Girl, where Buffy is talking to Giles and he's like, but the master might rise. And she's like, dude, I'm 16. I don't want to die. Like, mm-hmm. I just, yeah, there's some good moments overall, but yeah, maybe just the pack, maybe. Like the master I didn't really like. The anointed one I only enjoyed in season 2.
The pack was a good one.
Yeah, I was so happy when Spike killed him. Yeah, and it sets up season 2 so well, and it sets up the characters. But that was pretty much it. I mean, I didn't realize, like, I thought Darla died in season 2, but she ends up dying like halfway through season 1.
Yep.
Yeah, it's surprising how.
And I remember her being really big characters. Yeah.
I don't know how I thought. I also thought like Kendra was in season 2, like half the episodes, but she's only in 2 of them. I don't know why. Like my brain imagines these characters as.
Because
does anyone remember the anointed one?
Just the obnoxious kid. Oh.
They called him the annoying one, and he was killed, because no one liked him, and because the kid went through puberty, so they couldn't keep him around. Since he's supposed to be like a never changing immortal vampire. But Jock.
Yeah, that quickly runs itself out.
Like why does he have a beard now? Why is he getting a mustache? Adam, how did you like season 1?
It's all right. I didn't watch it in full until, and like all the early episodes I didn't watch probably until, I mean, years later, I don't know, whenever it was on Netflix, like 10 years ago or whatever, and then I watched it. So I only saw most of it, like probably the last like 5 or 6 episodes maybe as it aired. I'm looking at it. But I do remember seeing the pack. That might have been the first episode I saw, which I did really like that one. But I mean, it was all right. It definitely, in contrast with the other seasons, it takes a bit to get through. Like, yeah, if I was trying to tell someone to watch this today, I would maybe, recommend a few kind of key episodes, or just say you can have it on in the kitchen while you're cooking or something, get through season 1 and then go from there.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it definitely shows its age, but the show is so great. It is worth powering through the first season. I mean, it's not so terrible that it's unwatchable, but it really is dense, dark television. Yeah,
I think that this kind of underscores something that's kind of a larger issue that we've seen now, that like shows these days, it's like you've got a hit within like 1 episode pretty much. People give you like an episode, maybe 2, and if you're not drawing them in immediately with something, they'd probably just move on because there's just so much content out there.
Oh yeah. Whereas
before, if you had something on network, you're like, well, I've got at least a season, and as long as the numbers are okay, who knows, like cancellation or whatever, who knows. You probably get a little time. There were a lot of shows around this era where we'd probably say the same thing. Well, it got really good at the end of the first season or in the second season, and then kind of as we get to the end of like the 2010s and into this era, like that doesn't happen as much. It's like either things kind of only get 1 season because just people didn't engage, or because they have to be good from the beginning, or like that's sort of it. There are shows that like start to get good and then like that's just it. They don't really get as much leash anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm guilty of that myself. Like if I'm on, there's so many, if you look at my Netflix account, there's so many shows where you can just see like the progress bar is at 10 minutes and I just gave up because it just wasn't, it's just too much stuff to watch.
Right.
Too much stuff to watch.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. When you've got 3 other shows that you're in the middle of that you really enjoy, and you're just going to invest your time in that. Like I'll watch like 1 episode of a lot of things. I'm like, this looks interesting. And if it doesn't grab me, like maybe I never come back to it, or maybe I do like a year or 2 later. Like, I mean, I'm just going to put my time into stuff that I know I'm already enjoying.
For this show, it's totally worth powering through. And for this show, at least, this is classic television. So
yes.
It's not like Frontier starring Jason Momoa on Netflix. This is something that is quintessential. You should watch this, and it's totally fine if you didn't finish watching
all the way through season 1 of Frontier.
I love watching those guys wearing their fur, man. Like I'm into it. I'm into it.
I watched 5 minutes and I said, "Yeah, no, thank you." But speaking of other shows and material, before Bella and Edward, there was Buffy and Angel, the first forbidden relationship between a woman and a vampire. And again, Buffy did it better.
100 years old vampire.
But like forbidden for like good reasons. What gets me is like you say that and it just hits me. I'm like, well, why is he saying this? Obviously, and I'm like, you're right, because there'll be people listening to this that 20 years old in college, maybe high school, I don't know, whatever, maybe are just completely unfamiliar. I'm old now.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
old.
We're not old, but
older.
That sort of thing. It makes you feel old because it's like people that don't relate to this sort of stuff. You're like, doesn't everyone? Like, now I know how my parents probably felt when I was younger.
Yeah, because she's 15 15, 16 when the show begins, and he is a centuries old vampire. And they engage in a romantic relationship, but she's a vampire slayer, he's a vampire, which is not made apparent in the beginning of the show. We don't know what his deal is when we first meet Angel until the episode in season 1 called Angel, where he reveals that he's a vampire. And
right, but conservatively, he at least looks like he's like 25, right? So either way, it's still like, why are you hanging around the high school, dude? You obviously don't go here. Just saying.
And then we find out in later episodes that he's watching her from a distance since before she learned she was a Slayer.
Yeah, but like, it was a favor to someone.
Well, that's
like,
what
they
you do when
found
you
out
have that much
she was-
time.
You stalk
A
sophomores.
He's been around for a long time, and this sort of behavior has been normal for thousands of years. You expect him to just change on a dime his stalking ways? I don't think so. They didn't have Netflix back then, man. He had to entertain himself somehow.
There's so many different things he could have been doing with his immortality other than watching this girl come into her power when she's like 13, 14 years old.
Well, he can't be out having like sex and living it up. He can't be out trying to have happiness, right? He has to be miserable.
Oh, that's speaking. No,
So
go
I have
ahead,
a question about this. Yeah. No, it's because it is about Angel. So I always thought the thing like he would lose his soul if it was a moment of pure happiness. And when I first watched it, well, admittedly I was a virgin, so I guess I didn't realize that moment of true happiness was orgasm, because I was like, I thought it had to be with Buffy, like it had to be with someone that you love, like it can't just be all sex, full stop. Like he has to be celibate. I thought it had to be like with
I think
someone
it
he
is, because
loved.
doesn't he later on has sex and doesn't do it.
Right, and yeah,
So-
an Angel, and the lady's kind of disappointed. She's
But
like,
then an
you
Angel,
don't
he-
like this?
Yeah, but then like later on, he tries to lose his soul again by having sex with Darla and Angel, because he's sure that that's how he's going to lose his soul again, because he just doesn't want to care.
Right. But the first season, it definitely, they're kind of vague about it, and it's, I don't know if it's maybe if there is some sort of like network direction on that, but it's, definitely like an abstinence parable, and it just makes it seem like sex equals evil. Like there's not a lot more to it in the first season.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though it doesn't make any sense, eventually, but
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but
and I guess network television, it was never going to have a conversation about mutual masturbation.
Oh my gosh. Back to Pee Wee Herman.
I solved their problem. I solved their entire relationship. Boo.
Mutual master. So that's a really good segue to season 2, because the big bads in this season, they refer to Spike and Drusilla. They're vampires, kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde type of relationship. They come to Sunnydale to raise some heck. And at first, it's like maybe halfway through the season, it's them causing trouble for Buffy. They are they're very centuries old vampires that were friends with Angel back when he was Angelus. And halfway through the season, Buffy and Angel mutually masturbate each other, and Angel becomes Angelus because he loses his soul again. No, they have sex, and he has a moment of happiness, and that causes him to lose his soul, and he becomes Angelus, and he joins back with Spike and Drusilla, and they together cause trouble, raise problems. And Buffy's conflicted over the season because of course it's her lover who is now her enemy, and it's hard to separate the fact that he's not Angel anymore from the fact that he's now Angelus. And the season ends with her killing Angel to save the world, and she leaves Sunnydale. But to talk about the season, let's go to Donna. How did you favorite episode, least favorite, what you like?
Oh, what I love about this season is it introduces us to Ethan Kane, who is one of my favorite characters, because every time he turns up, it's just fantastic hijinks. So it was 2.6, so Halloween, which is the one where he rents out Halloween costumes to everyone, and people become that thing that they're dressed up with. So like Willow becomes a ghost, and Buffy's a total princess, and Xander becomes a military guy, which I really love this episode because it sets up them getting rid of the judge who Spike and Drusilla are trying to resurrect to mess it up. And then they're just like, hey Xander, with your military knowledge, bazooka. And it just, love it. Yeah. Plus Kendra. You get Kendra this episode.
Oh, yes. Two things. Don't want to interrupt you, but like to RIPD to the actor who plays Ethan Rain. He did pass away in real life. And yeah, I think it was brain cancer.
Who played who?
Ethan Rain, Jock's old friend.
Oh, okay.
What was his name, Jock? I think you said it.
No, I was just like saying like the other Giles.
Oh, the other Giles. But Donna, if you weren't finished your point, you go ahead. Just wanted to get that out there.
Oh no, I was just saying like, oh, that's horrible because I love he brings out the best in Giles. Like, just always calls him Ripper, and you finally get this image of Giles as a teenager messing around with magic, which has these really cool. I don't know if Josh Whedon read Hellblazer at the time, but I find it really interesting that both of them are supernatural. Like, well, Hellblazer is a comic book series, but Spike is introduced in season 2, and is it Billy Idol, like that blonde bleached hair look, and then like you have Hellblazer and John Constantine is like exactly the same look, and like all these other really cool things. It took me an obscenely long amount of time to realize that James Marsden was American, even though that's not a good English accent.
Right.
But
So
he did it pretty solidly for so long.
Speaking of James Marsters, it's funny because like I knew there was a kid like around this time when the show was popular, and his last name was Marsters, and like he just for the longest time he was always so low key about it, but he was like, yeah, that's my brother, and like there's no internet. He was lying, obviously, but like there was really no internet, there was really no fact checking any of this, right? And everyone just sort of believed him, but he also wasn't like running around saying it all the time. Like he like somehow it was back in the day people would do this, right? They're like, well, I'm cousins with Jay-Z, or whatever. But like he was like low key about it, like he told one or two people or something, and then like they would spread it for him, sort of. You're like, did you know, man? We're like, huh, interesting. And then I'm like, there's no way. There's like absolutely no way.
That I don't think it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was
checking back then was just calling his mother.
That's right. Like, I don't see him much because he's a popular actor,
Well, yeah. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention. You talked about Donna. You mentioned the episode with the judge and the bazooka. I don't know if this is internet more lies being put across the internet, like the fake Marster's brother or whatever. But it was supposed to be a tank instead of a rocket launcher, but they didn't have the budget for that.
Heck, no, they didn't.
There's no way they would have a tank.
Bazooka, I could make you with some spray paint and some cardboard.
Get a big old tube.
I guess my least favorite thing about season 2 is Drusilla. I just have issues.
You're supposed to hate her.
I know, but it's just you could make Drusilla like a bad guy and hateable, but still enjoyable. But Drusilla and then later Tara, it's the same problem. Stop making magical people crazy because they just get really obnoxious and childlike, and I don't like that. Like, just this.
How many people wouldn't go crazy after being alive that long? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and she was made crazy before she was a vampire, and that's Angel's and all that kind of thing. And I really like her backstory. It's just, the childlike. And it just felt like all my patience was gone. So when Tara went crazy, I was like, I'm out. I'm sorry. I barely liked you when you were sane. I did like her when she was sane, actually. That's a lie. Then they started dressing her in weird corsets and medieval clothes for no good reason. I don't know. Too much Crush Velvet. It makes me mad.
I thought the childishness was kind of the point.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, and season 2, Buffy's bangs, horrible. Anyway, I'm out. Cordelia and Xander.
You hate her. I meant to bring that up. You hate her bangs. They're the true big bad of the season. Her bangs.
They are just.
What?
See, even my dog dislikes Buffy's bangs. Like, you just mentioned them, and this is what she does. No, I think she's found a rat outside. Sorry. Bad fashion choices. And Cordelia and Xander in this season, though, one of the best couplings in it, just because they hate each other so much.
Oh yeah, I want to say I do agree with you. I've come to hate that because it's something that's in like fantasy like that, the manic pixie dream girl type of character that's always I can't reference a character right now, but that childish nature, and they always have like maybe some sort of magical power, and I don't know, it's irritating now. I guess when I
They
first
always
watched
have to be looked after and pandered to, and it just ugh.
yeah, she's definitely babied, and she acts like a big old baby. And now when I watch it, it's kind of like but before it, I didn't like. I don't like Spike as a character. I don't like Drusilla as characters. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I really wish they died this season. But they kept him. I'm not sure about her, but I know they kept Spike because of the fans' reaction to the character. They loved him so much.
Yeah, I like Spike.
Are we going to have a really good Spike versus Angel fight? Because I think we're going to have a Spike versus Angel
we're
fight.
Did
probably
ladies
get
like
there.
Spike? Is that what it was? Like, you know, because he was just so meta for the time because his name was Spike and he had the frosted spike tips. You know, he was like boy band vampire.
I don't know what the reaction was from the female viewers, but I do know like among the Buffy fans, like he was just so popular, so we're going to keep him along. And when TV shows do that, I think it's a detriment to the story. Changing it just to please fans, it doesn't. I feel like it just doesn't work. And yeah, we're probably going to get into a big old Angel Spike argument later on because I don't.
Because they kept him because they moved Angel off. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
And I mean, I did like how he kind of comes around and you know, he comes around to like helping them, but I didn't like the whole like romance angle of it. Or I mean, there were parts of his stories that were just not great.
And yeah, he does some really awful things. But if you want to go ahead and continue like with your opinions on the season 2, Adam.
That was me done. Wait.
Okay.
Oh, and Bewitched, because this is the first time we get like a lot of magic, and like Xander makes that love potion because no one wants to be his Valentine, and then everyone ends up wanting to be with him, and he goes crazy. Because is that the episode where Amy becomes a mouse? Or that might be season 3. But like
Season 3 is when
Amy,
she becomes, yeah.
Yeah, like Amy, Lily's friend, like dabbling in magic, and just going so wrong. Don't trust Sabrina the Teenage Witch. You love potions. Anyway, I'm out.
No, also I don't like Xander for the same reason I don't like what's his name, Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. But we can get into that a little bit later. Adam, what are your thoughts on season 2?
Ron should have died.
Ron should have died. Yes, thank you.
No, season 2 I think is where the show really, you know, kind of started to spread its legs. I mean, that's the first season that I like fully watched. So I mean, I really enjoyed it. But trying to think, like, is there one episode that like really stood out as my favorite? I'm like woefully unprepared because like I rewatched this like months ago. I didn't realize we were doing this today. But let me see. The Halloween episode was really good. I got to admit that's one that stands out as one of my favorites just in general. The Mummy episode was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, the eggs. Yeah, I liked bad eggs. I did like that.
That's one of the things I used to watch, these shows about people in the suburbs going to school, doing things. And I had like half my life I was in this inner city. And I was like, I wish my school had eggs that had demons in them. I wish.
Like,
that's one of those things.
I didn't even get a flower baby.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I wish I had like flower babies or those like fake babies you bring home from school and stuff.
I remember that they do flower babies and stuff. And like the nice schools had like the electronic babies.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh yeah, fucking rich kids got that shit.
Because they're programmed, so if the teacher doesn't like you, they can put it on the "You're Not Sleeping This Weekend" program, and if they like you, they can put it on the. It's meant to be randomized, but it's really not. Also, you're dudes; you don't have to deal with the babies. Like I went to a school where it was only the girls had to deal with the babies.
Oh no, there was a mother and father, and you had to like both like take care of the babies.
But Jock, what were your thoughts on the season?
I think season 2 a lot better than season 1. I did like the Love Potion episode, and Sandra's funny quite a few times, just not that interesting a character. Also found the way they took the vampires, as in the lack of soul means they don't have a moral compass and first act purely on hedonistic self-interest. Mm-hmm. Quite an interesting sort of look at rational self-interest, because normally it's sort of the interpretation of that's in sort of kind of like default in computers, like in most other literature or media. But Joss Whedon brought up the idea that really, if you're just purely self-interested, then you wouldn't be like this rational being, but closer to sort of like childish person who just jumps from thing to thing.
Yeah, that's one thing we should bring up. Vampires in this story, again, they don't really fit the mold that we know from other stories, because when you get a Twilight vampire, let's say, when Bella is turned into a vampire, she's still Bella. She has all her memories, she has a personality, she's just Bella, she's just immortal and insanely beautiful. In this story, when you become a vampire, you lose your soul, like you die, and a demon takes shop in your body.
Yeah, basically, like you're not there, which I think is the interesting part. Like, whereas the other part of the vampires is just, you know, most fiction is, well, you're a human and you're you, but now you like crave the blood and it turns you, you know, crazy. Versus like you're basically trapped inside yourself while someone else is taking the wheel. You know, I think it's interesting.
And also, like, let's say if you have a terminal illness, which is I think this happens in this season where one of Buffy's friends shows up and I think he has a disease and he wants to become a vampire to survive. And Buffy's like, no, dude, if you die,
it's not an option.
No, you're gonna die. And I think he ends up just getting killed. I think Spike and he does something. He tries to trap Buffy and he betrays her to Spike and Drusilla, and it doesn't work, and they kill him.
It was the guy from Roswell. He played Max in Roswell.
Jason Brr? I forget how to pronounce his last name. Or is it Brendan Frere? Because it was like two of them with like weird spelling last names on that show.
Yeah, well. There was the one with the weird ears and then the cute one with bad hair. I summed up Roswell for you.
I don't even know what's going on. Isn't that a show they brought back? Didn't they do?
Yeah, they recently
doing Roswell
brought it back
again or something.
Oh, it's
I don't know why. It's not old enough to be revived yet, but whatever.
It's not good enough to be revived.
That was one of the shows I watched, like Dawson's Creek, like Buffy for people. Oh man, this is I'm just getting flooded with memories of back in the day with the Dawson's Creek. Yeah. And Popular and other shows that came on. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like when like suddenly like all these like MTV Freeform, like all these shows that are really marketed towards you know, the teenage audience like they are now. Like that didn't exist a ton before the 90s, and it slowly kind of trickled in, you know, like My So-Called Life and Buffy and things like that. You know, now there's just a ton of it, and, varying degrees of quality, obviously, but
you got stuff like what's that show that's at Riverdale, where it's just like Buffy. We have a bunch of 30-year-old people playing teenagers in high school, and it's
how
cool.
you do it.
But to go back to season 2 of Buffy, it introduces a new character called Kendra, and she is also a vampire slayer. And she has I
always forget about her.
Yeah, I don't know. She stood out for me because around my house we just always made fun of her because of her accent. Like the actress puts on this, I don't even know. It's like supposed to be like an islander accent, like maybe something Caribbean, but it's just not good. And she has my favorite line of the whole series, because she gets into a fight with one of like an assassin or something, and the person cuts her shirt, and she's like, "You ripped me shirt. That's me only shirt." And I just so fucking silly.
Well, she's supposed to be from Jamaica, but
it's just so bad. It's like a Miss Cleo type of thing. It's really bad. But,
oh gosh, Miss Cleo.
Yeah, call her now. Oh, rest in peace to her. She's dead too.
She scammed a lot of people.
What's that reference?
Miss Cleo was a TV psychic, and the commercials would be on here all the time, all hours, to call her psychic network. And it would have pictures. It would have like people calling in, being like, "Hey, so I'm pregnant, and there's several different guys, and like there's a guy, and he has big shoulders." And she'd be like, "Yeah, that's the daddy." Like It was like this real like it was like the psychic network. But I imagined everyone you talked to was like a caricature, putting on these like crazy voices and stuff. it was more of like a performance for like $20 a minute or whatever they charge.
Yeah, from what I understand, when you call, like, it's a small chance you would get to Miss Cleo. You would just get somebody else that was part of the network, and you would talk to them.
Yeah, man, Miss Cleo's on TV, man. You can't talk to no Miss Cleo.
Well, you gotta pay extra.
That's right. Miss Cleo is extra.
But now she has passed on from this mortal coil. But Kendra, at the end of season 1...
I did find her ad.
Huh? Oh, my... And this is all part of nostalgia, too. Oh, God. Go ahead, play it again.
There's a Miss Cleo soundboard.
It turned into a morning radio show.
This is where they introduce us to, like, there's only supposed to be one Slayer, right?
Yeah, at the very beginning. There was
2.
At the very beginning, in the first season, every episode you would hear, like, into every generation, there was a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires and demons and forces of darkness. We hear all the time, like, there's only one Slayer, and after she dies, another one is called. And then
suddenly you're like, what?
Yeah, because when Buffy drowns, she technically dies, but she gets revived. And then Kendra shows up and they get into a fight because there's a misunderstanding. And Buffy's like, who are you? And Kendra's like, I'm Kendra, the Vampire Slayer. And you're like, oh, what? There's another one? And yeah,
I'm from Jamaica, man.
You're from an island, not anywhere near Jamaica, lady. But cool character. Not a lot done with her. She is a black actress, Bianca Lawson, who I think she's a vampire herself, because if you look at her now, she still looks exactly the same as she did when the show first came out. She's aging beautifully.
Yeah, she does. I just looked her up on Google here, and I'm like, it doesn't look like she's aged at all. I think she's still playing teenagers on TV. She's the exact opposite of Buffy, where Buffy is very unorthodox. She doesn't really follow the rules. She's like a, not stupid, but very ditzy, sort of in her own thing, doing her own thing. She bucks the system a lot. Like when Giles gives her orders, she's like, whatever, dude, I'll do what you tell me to do, but I'm going to do it in my own way. And that's probably why she lives for as long as she does. Whereas Kendra is more rule bound. She is, very, reluctant to, disobey orders. And that probably is the reason why she dies, because she does die at the end of this season. She's in two episodes, and in the season finale, Drusilla kills her. No, I don't remember much about her other than, because it's just kind of so brief. It seems to me like what stands out more is the device they used to bring her about. But I will say, yeah, she was playing like high schoolers as soon as like 5 years ago. Under her IMDb.
And she was a bitchy girl in Save the Last Dance.
Yeah, she was. Yep.
That's crazy.
But
I liked Kendra. Besides the accent, but I thought she was a good foil for Buffy, just in her rule following ways, and it was nice for someone to show up and Buffy not to be the best person for the job, which I think Kendra was the better person for the job. It is disappointing that she didn't last very long, but yeah. And then you have.
I mean, I like Faith a lot more. Opposite. Obviously,
they gave Faith a lot more to work with, but Kendra is as we said, like she has an accent, says something like Afro-Caribbean or whatever. But Kendra is like one of the few. Here goes the black guy talking about black things again. But she's one of the few black characters, and she dies after 2 episodes. That's awful. I mean, you could have done something with her, anything. Oh, the actress.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, just add a little touch of color to the cast, because there's there are no other people of color in the main cast. How interesting.
How
no,
nice.
Well, they went to like a suburban 90s, California high school, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's not great, but
it was a product of its time. Yeah, Donna.
There weren't very many people of color in any of the episodes. I mean,
yeah,
I think later seasons might have been a little better.
It gets a little bit better, like in season 4 with the Initiative, because quite a few people in the Initiative.
Oh yeah, and you have like Riley's friend or whatever, right?
I think his name is Forrest or Forrester.
I can't remember what his name was. Yeah.
Yeah, see, Riley, he has a black friend, and then we get Principal Wood later on, and we get
Sam Wood is great. Yeah. Is it his name? Sam Wood? No.
I think it's Robin Wood.
Robin Wood,
happened to Faith? Like she was like in a hospital, and then she got out, and then she was in prison. Like is that where she ends in Angel, where she like checks herself into prison for murder?
No, we let's get to that when we get to season 7, because I want to bounce between the two. But this is a good point since we're bringing up Faith, we can move on to season 3 where she's introduced. This was a very controversial season because of the Columbine shootings. 2 of the episodes this season were moved to the summer because they involved like graphic violence taking place at Sunnydale. I mean, this show has a lot of violence involving teenagers. But those like one of the episodes was called Earshot, and that had the potential for a character to do a school shooting. That's not what happened, but that was the threat that Buffy and her friends had to deal with in the episode. And in Graduation Day, part 2, which is another episode they moved, the graduation ceremony. The graduation ceremony was it turned into a battle, like a war, because the mayor of the town turned into a giant snake, and the graduates turned into an army, and they took the
it's a great finale.
It's an awesome finale. It's one of the best ones, and he kills a bunch of kids during his commencement speech. But this is when the show gets really good. This is if you watch through season 1 and 2, now you're at the good point.
Yeah,
now you're in the good
season
place.
3 is maybe the best season.
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah, I would say it's the best season. We get Faith. We get it. The mayor is the big bad, and he's an awesome character. We get Wesley, who's funny.
Earshot was planned before the shooting and all that, right?
Yeah, I believe
it just happened to be. Let me see. What does it say? Yeah, it says it was Columbine happened like a week before it was supposed to air, so it was already, done and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. So it's just an unfortunate accident that these things came out. But when you have a show about high schoolers and demons, it's gonna eventually have some sort of plot where they get killed. Yeah. But Donna, you were saying something?
Oh, I was ages ago looking at how certain websites rated the episodes of Buffy, and Den of Geek actually put the final 2 episodes of season 2 as the best episode of Buffy, which is bullshit. But I get it.
Of season 2?
I guess.
Becoming part 1 and 2 is some incredible writing, like some of the best television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, it's fantastic.
And it's such good character payoff and that kind of thing. And I was watching something where the person was saying, like, originally when they watched it, they thought it was really cruel that Angel is turned back into Angel right before Buffy kills him.
Yes.
But
actually
isn't cruel, because Buffy actually got to say goodbye. Like, she doesn't see it as a cruelty.
And he has no idea, like, he's being killed right now. It's the love of her life. That's when her mother finds out that she's a Slayer, and she kicks her out of the house.
And that whole,
we skipped over all that, but yeah.
Homophobia stuff where, like, let's treat slayering as an allegory to that. Yeah.
Now some
Becoming
really go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, Becoming Part 1 and 2 is probably, like, Graduation Day Part 1 and 2 are probably my favorite season finales, just spectacle-wise, but I guess the character stuff is much better in this season 2 one because it is Angel.
And he twists the knife. He kills off Kendra dies in Becoming Part 1, and that's when Buffy is on the run from the cops. They think she's wanted for murder. Her mother finds out she's a Slayer and kicks her out. She leaves town because of that she had to kill her lover, and her mother kicked her out. Like, the emotional damage done in those 2 episodes is some of the greatest writing that he's ever done. But going back to season 3, we get Faith, the Vampire Slayer. She is where Kendra is conservative and rule-bound. Faith gives no fucks, and she's sort of damaged herself because of her upbringing and some events that happened in her earlier life as a Slayer. What do you guys think about Faith? You like her, don't like her?
I always liked Faith. I mean, even though she was kind of evil and kind of an ass, like, I thought it was a really good twist for the season. You have this other Slayer, and then you know, I don't know. She clearly didn't even really know what she wanted, and joining the mayor and all this stuff. You know what I mean? So I kind of like the fact that like she sort of like caused this chaos and all that, but it wasn't like she was like well defined with a plan. She was just, you know, she just had issues and was sort of kind of trying to figure things out and was like, whatever, I'll fuck with some shit. Fuck Buffy. Everyone loves Buffy, so fuck it. You know, like
yeah. And I really like that line where Buffy, after Faith kills a man, Buffy comes to her and she's like, you know, we gotta talk about this. And Faith, you killed a man. Like, no, she says, you don't get it. You killed a man. And Faith is like, no, you don't get it. I don't care. And now that's the end of the episode. And I was like, holy shit, she's evil. She's Dark Slayer. And I didn't expect to see that sort of character on the show.
Yeah, she's just so detached. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just weird because it's like they're always, you know, slaying monsters, and then, you know, when you kill humans, it's, you know, she's like, what's the difference? You know, it's all should all be the same. But, you know, it's nice that some people still have the moral compass, and I think maybe hers just was kind of never really calibrated properly.
Yeah, and yeah, she was someone who was damaged. She just alludes to the fact that she was abused at home and maybe kicked out herself and sort of roamed around without anyone actually caring for her. And then when she gets people that do care for her, they die or they betray her. Like in the episode Revelations, she gets a new watcher and she thinks the watcher is on her side and is giving her good advice and is looking out for her benefit. But at the end of the episode, she finds out that the watcher isn't her friend. She's not her guide. She doesn't give a shit about her. And the watcher, once she gets, because the whole episode is about getting some sort of magical MacGuffin, and the watcher plays Faith against Buffy and everyone else. And so when she finally gets the object, she looks at Faith and she's like, Faith, you're an idiot. So when you have a mentor just flat out calls you an idiot after all this stuff in your life, it's just going to push you further and further over the edge. And by, I guess, like half of the season, it's like she's done. She becomes evil.
Yeah. And they're still like, you know, very fragile teenagers. I mean, you know, even though they're portrayed by, you know, older people, they're not really in that stage of life where they can handle something like that very well, usually.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say Faith. I called Donna Faith. Donna, do you have any viewpoints on the character?
I dislike Faith, but that's mainly because I feel like some of the episodes based around her later on aren't very good. Like season 7 stuff just irks me. Anyway, but I kind of like the idea of Faith as Buffy without friends or family or anyone that she can trust. And yeah, you kind of see it a little bit, especially in this season, because you get 3.9 where Cordy wishes that Buffy Summers never came to Sunnydale, and at the very end you see a much tougher, bad, like just careless Buffy, very similar to Faith. And that's because she doesn't have those people around her. Also, The Wish is one of the best episodes ever.
Right.
Just for
That's how we get
Willow.
That's where we get Anya, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but that's also where we get like the first. No, actually, it's a little bit later in the season when Doppelganger Willow comes to the real world, and she kind of like looks at herself and she's like, "I don't do too bad." It's like the first hint that Willow might be gay.
Yeah.
I just like, man, I really like Faith in season 3 just because her and the mayor, it's a relationship that could come across so badly, but it comes across really quite loving in their own weird way. Like, neither of them are good people.
I don't know, man. The mayor.
Oh, the mayor is creepy, but I do feel like it's much more fatherly than like, I want to slip my hand up your skirt.
I think he genuinely loves her as a daughter figure. Yeah. There's that great moment in the season, like I think it's in the season finale, where he goes to the hospital where Buffy is, and he starts strangling her while she's on the gurney, and because he's so mad that she almost killed Faith. I was like, that's dedication right there. You really do love her. Jock, did you have any viewpoints on Faith?
Well, I didn't feel like she really
had much agency as a sort of character in the narrative. I felt like she was more sort of just to get the sort of theme of the season across, and with the whole sort of friendship and people without friends that goes throughout the whole season. And I'm not 100% sure if whether or not she was even that necessary, because the show already had Claudia, who was isolated after the whole breakup with Xander, that they could have used. And they did use really well with The Wish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. You brought up something that I hate. The fact that Xander cheated. He spends the first 3 seasons pining to have a beautiful girlfriend, and then he finally gets the queen bee of the school, and he cheats on her with someone he willfully ignored for his whole life, someone who had such a huge crush on him. Xander is trash.
Xander's just becoming a player, man. What you talking about?
No,
don't hate the player, hate the game.
God damn it.
He's a typical like high school boy, especially someone who didn't get a lot of attention and then suddenly got a lot. I mean, that's just unfortunate.
And I'm not saying that you should understand and respect and acknowledge the fact that you're not an attractive, you're not someone who is typically wanted by many people. So when you finally get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you should be grateful and never make mistakes. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just so fucking awful, because he's held up to this high standard where he's like the judgmental member of the group. Like even Caleb in season 7 says you're the one that sees everything. So for him to be held to these high standards, like he's supposed to be like the paragon of everybody, and then he makes all these mistakes that never get addressed.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever really saw him as the paragon so much as kind of like the snooty know-it-all, but like he who was right a lot of the time, obviously. But I also, because like you're supposed to want him and Willow to be together, so I don't know.
And
it is complicated.
And there's so many scenes of him like just lecturing Buffy about her life and how she's not doing this right. She's not treating Riley correctly. Don't run away again. That scene in I think this is the season premiere of season 3 where she's ready to run away again because she's not feeling included, and he like goes on this rant at her in the middle of a party. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Xander. You're a piece of shit. But does anybody else have any more for season 3 or Xander, who was garbage?
I've never met anyone who hated Xander and hates Xander so much, so this is really enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure. I'm just enjoying this right now.
Yeah,
he's such a judgmental asshole.
Him and
he's
Anya.
just a teenage boy.
Come on, what's going on? Like that was.
Him hitting a Willow with him, like, oh God, when Willow tells Oz, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed the Xander Cordy relationship, but like the fallout for like Willow and Oz was just really realistic a little bit, and that's not the relationship I wanted. You just don't want them to break up. Season 3 gets our second or third Ethan Crane episode with Ban Candy, where all the adults eat chocolate and become teenagers, and Giles and Joyce bonk.
They do. That's kind of one of the things that you kind of see happening from season 1, that they're going to get together and maybe even be a couple, because Giles is her father figure, Joyce is her actual mother, and they're both older people, so it was fun. I do like they're like a high school sort of they're acting like teenagers, horny teenagers, and Buffy has to like wrangle them around, like, stop making out, stop smoking, stop being ditzy, and we have to save the world.
And Giles goes full James Dean, like Marlon Brando.
I want to save the world,
white
bro.
shirt,
with the cigarettes rolled up his sleeve. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's like, you don't look like James Dean, you look like Snake.
Right. If we made this episode today, what would Giles dress up as? Can't go that far back, God. Right? So Zach from Saved by the Bell, I mean, what would he dress up as?
Oh, I was just thinking like he would the fuckiest of fuck boys. I just imagine him like with tattoos on his face or something. I don't know. What he would
like
just
Chris
say.
Angel.
But if we have no more season 3, we can move over to season 4. This is when season 3 was peak Buffy. This is the best of the best, the best of the best. Season 4 is when things start going downhill. In my opinion, this is when we start having episodes that I noticed were really, really bad. The big bad of this season is Adam, who is like a Frankensteinian creature. Not even like a Frankenstein creature. He's basically he is Frankenstein. And this is when Buffy goes to college. And, it's a completely different dynamic than when she was in high school. And I don't think the show really utilized the college setting as they did the high school setting. It's not really the same. I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with this new environment that she was in. The first episode is really good when Buffy, she's in college for the first time and she's not adjusting like Willow's doing. But after that, it's kind of just like that she's in college. It's like really periphery.
It was just to have new sets and like new places for stuff to happen. And I feel like the initiative was a huge mistake. Not that you couldn't have some secret organization that was doing this, but like there's not really a lot of like reason or history for it. And it being like college based is just bizarre.
Makes no sense. This is a government organization. Like, was it always beneath this?
We
college?
need frat bros.
We need bros, bro.
I guess like if someone had come along saying like, yeah, people die doing this, like we lose 90% of our agents or something, so we just pick impressionable young college. If they'd come with some sort of logical reason as to why they're there, but it doesn't make any sense.
No. And also I want to say for this season we lose Angel. He moves to his own show, also called Angel. Cordelia does leave as well to join him on Angel, and this is where we get Spike and Anya as replacement characters pretty much. Anya, I think, is a fantastic character. I've already expressed my distaste for Spike. But then we also get Riley as a love interest to Buffy. He's basically Captain America. I heard a noise.
Don't besmirch Captain America there. Like, just don't besmirch Captain America with comparing him to Riley.
It's the same. He works as Captain America. Riley has super strength given to him by the government, and he works for the Initiative. It's the Avengers Initiative.
Yeah, but Captain America's not lame.
No, Riley.
I'm with you to the end of the line, Buffy. As soon as I finish crying.
I totally forgot something with season 3 is like Wesley and Cordelia's very weird relationship. Stop having a crush on a teenager Wesley. It's gross.
Oh, and then Giles is like, she's 18, go for it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Hey, she's like 25 at least, 28 in real life. It's cool, bro. It's cool. Well, I mean, doesn't what's her name? Allison Hannigan ends up marrying Wesley, so in real life.
Yeah.
And they seem very happy and lovely. So
nauseatingly adorable. The thing that I found really weird about season 4 is it came out in 1999, and if it came out in like 2002, where you did have a lot of young people joining the army during like university or just before university and that kind of thing, I could kind of understand the initiative of like young people getting sucked into a battle that they are not prepared for.
As being kind of like a meta, yeah.
Yeah, but it's 1999, so that just doesn't fit at all, and it doesn't work retroactively either because it's not written that way. The only thing I can barely stand about Riley is I do like that his masculinity is totally challenged by Buffy, and he knows he's insignificant because he is insignificant compared to her, and he just struggles with that, and I like that. Yeah.
And that becomes a problem in season 5. No, go ahead. Excuse me.
Oh, no. Yeah, season 5, he's been, like, having vampires feed on him because he's a fuckboy. He's just such a waste of oxygen. But season 4 is worth it because Spike gets the chip and has that wonderful conversation with Willow about impotence. That is just, like, Willow telling him to, like, take a break and, maybe they can try again in a couple of minutes, and she's like, wait, what? No, you cannot try again.
Yeah. So I think like season 3 is really good. Season 4, I think, is almost equally as good, but it has some really terrible elements like Riley and stuff in it. And I mean, because we get Hush in this season, right?
Yeah.
There's like bringing back Spike with the chip is actually, I mean, I like that. I think that's a good move. I think the show is better for Anya. And then we get, at the same time, I'm sort of including this, which I probably shouldn't, but like we get Angel, which is a great show, in its own right. So like at this time, you have both of these shows going, and there was some crossover between the two shows, and it was kind of like the best time, for this, universe on TV. And then I think season 5 is where, really where, you have the main problems, I think, that show up to me. I mean, this, other than kind of the initiative and like some of the wasted opportunities there, like I still think like the writing and the general episode to episode is really good in this season. And at the same time, like, yeah, like I was, you can switch on over to Angel and you get a whole nother story, in my home, state. And it's, I don't know, it's cool. Like, I like it. So I don't know. But yeah. I think both shows are made better by the people that leave and return to them, if that makes any sense.
Yes. I mean, I like how in the show, characters do get killed off. We didn't mention in season 2, one of the main characters, there's a major character death there with Jenny Calendar getting killed, who was a teacher and like a member of the Scooby Gang, but Angel snapped her neck. But this show, I like that characters, they do die, but most of them kind of just leave to do other things. And I think has more of a dramatic impact than a character death. I think too many shows these days kill off people for shock value. But this show, when they leave, it's because of this really dramatic moment that they have to go off to do other things elsewhere. And that's cool. That's because eventually, yeah, Riley does leave, Oz leaves, Angel left, Cordelia left. It was for the better reason.
And it makes the universe feel like it's lived in. You have multiple shows going. You have people that are off doing other stuff. They haven't left because they were killed off or forced to leave. Like, that character's off doing their own adventures, and then of course, fans can kind of imagine what they're doing. And
I think season 4 proves that like bad episodes and seasons can happen, but they are bearable because the characters are so good. Like, just watching them interact can get you through season 4. Like, trying to sum up this season, I had like Scooby Gang go to uni, Spike gets a chip, and something military. I cannot explain Adam. Like, I just can't explain the plot. Yeah,
it was bad.
I don't even get what it was supposed to be. He comes in later in the season because he's slowly being put together from demon pieces. I'm not sure what the commentary, the theme, the metaphor there was, but probably the worst big bad that the show has ever had. I rhymed. But Jock, did you have any profound statements to make on season 4?
Well, season 4's more sort of thing was symbols versus sort of reality. So Widow sort of joins a Wiccan group, but it's more of sort of a symbol that can be used for other purposes. Whereas when she tries to bring up the reality of witchcraft, she gets quickly put down, even though she's doing the actual witchcraft, whereas others are doing the symbol witchcraft. And likewise, Buffy is trying to put up with appearing as a symbol, while her love interest is also doing the same thing. There's lots of miscommunication, and all that builds up to the Hush episode, since Dana asked, where these things start to get released, where the symbol where communication is separated from language, which is language as the symbols of the world get stripped away. So you only have that reality of the world. So Tara's and Widow's witchcraft comes out. Buffy and the Riley's, both of their actions get revealed, despite not being able to communicate in a traditional sense.
Oh yeah, I really like that scene where they both like crash into they have like this like standoff because they're both fighting demons. They don't know that the other person's there, and they both turn. And she has her crossbow. He has his stun blaster sci-fi gun, and they're like, "What? You kill vampire? You kill demons too? That's awesome."
Well, it was a great episode and how it blended like horror and comedy and stuff. Also, they always liked the sort of where like it was under with how do we kill them. Buffy went to do a stab without a knife. And
so she does a Pee Wee Herman, yeah. But you said the Wicca group that Willow is in. I remember one line that I liked. It's a bit of the Buffy speak where Willow's like, I'm so tired of these wannabe Wiccans. How does she say it? It was some sort of weird alliteration, like a blessed wannabes, something like that. I don't know, but I thought it was funny. But yeah, Hush as an episode, Josh Whedon wrote it because many critics were saying this is the episode where for like 75% of the show, there's no dialogue because people can't talk. And Josh Whedon, I think he said that he wrote this episode because people were criticizing the show, saying that it's carried mostly by its dialogue, and that if the characters, well, the dialogue just moves the show along, and that's pretty much the only positive thing about it.
Right.
So he wrote an episode where they didn't talk, and everyone's like, "This is still great television."
He's like, "What? No."
Emmy-nominated episode, bitches. It's in that episode where we find out, or it's becoming established that Willow is in fact a lesbian, which is something we can talk about. Or, well, before we get to that, let's just talk about Hush. And how did you, Donna, since you brought this up, how did you feel about Hush?
As someone who does not like being scared, this is one of my favorite episodes of television ever. It's one of those ones that if people are like, I don't want to watch Buffy, I'm like, you just watch Hush and then tell me you don't want to watch the rest of every single, like the other 143 episodes. I like how it's all about silence, like, you know, with Xander and Anya arguing, like they need to be silent so they can listen to each other, and Tara being silenced by other people, like talking over her and discounting her. And then when the silence actually happens, just how terrifying and dangerous it is. If I am, for whatever reason, scrolling through Buffy images and one of the gentlemen appear, I still get like quite terrified in like this really weird way of like, don't look at it because I might have nightmares again. Plus it gave us like Doug Jones is like the tallest of the gentlemen apparently. Like, good on you, Commander Saru.
Well, I had no idea. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Doug Jones is awesome. But it's been so long since I've seen it because I'm still so terrified of the gentleman. But there's so many parts that I really like, so I watched little bits of it. And they're floating, and just the silence is, especially when you're watching TV by yourself, when there is no sound, it is just so more powerful than when if they're just trying to like creep you out with a bit of like cello twanging. It's
This was.
But maybe that's me.
TV, no, TV. I don't get. Some TV shows do like jump scares in them, but they do like loud clangs or whatever, and it's supposed to scare you. But I've never been scared by a television show. This is one of the few times in my life where a TV show made me like jump out of my chair. Like one of the gentlemen. I think Giles' girlfriend, Paramore, is a black woman. She is looking out the window at night and she sees the gentleman like floating in the distance, and then one passes directly by the window, and there's no like hard musical cue to make you scared. It's just shocking to see it so close, and I just flew out of my chair. It was so creepy. But yeah, it's a great episode all around. But Adam, what are your opinions on this fantastic Emmy-nominated episode?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best episodes, if not the best episode of the series, and I mean, it's just one of the best episodes, I think, of television. It's it was an interesting concept that he really made work, and I mean, I think even people that don't really know Buffy or have really watched Buffy, a lot of people have still seen this episode, which says a lot.
Yeah. But season 4, I think I don't have much else to say on this, but we do get to meet the first Slayer ever in this season. At the season finale, typically in the season finale of Buffy, she fights the big bad guy, kills him, and that's over. That actually happens in the episode 21. And in episode 22, because they abuse the Slayer power, the first Slayer comes into their dreams and she starts killing them one by one, or attacking them one by one as like, you have affronted me and now I have to punish you. And Buffy, for some reason, she gets into fights with every other Slayer, which is kind of weird. Like, it's supposed to be some sort of like sisterhood here. But no, she...
Right. It's like when you have two schizophrenic people, they did this in the 70s. This is not okay to do now. But if they both believe that they're Jesus, if you put them in a room together, they will fight. Like, they will argue, and then you will separate them. And you ask them why they fight, and they say, like, the other person was a fake. Like, it's the same with Slayers. You put them in a room, they will fight. Not saying that Slayers are schizophrenic. It just seems very similar, There can only be one Jesus and or Neo. I wonder if you could repeat that experiment with all the people that now think they're Neo.
This season, though, let's not forget we got the episode where Buffy and Faith switch bodies. So
Oh yes, that's another excellent one.
There was a couple episodes, I think, right? And then that's how I think Faith ends up going over to Angel.
It's a two-parter. Yeah, that's how. Yeah, and then there's another crossover where Buffy goes to Angel and she's hunting Faith down, and Buffy and Angel get into a fight because he's trying to redeem her, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was all. I really liked that. You can kind of include like that episode of Angel as part of the season, I guess.
Also, in Restless, you get the cheese guy.
Oh, yep.
The what?
The cheese.
The cheese. The cheese slice, dude. It's just the one thing that makes it like super dreamlike. Besides like all the other way that they did. At all. Oh, yeah.
It's super random. It's just that they're all having their individual dreams, and it's all like there's like symbolism and all sorts of weird stuff. But in each and every character's dream, there's a guy who just appears with like craft single slices of cheese, or he has them on a platter, and he's
on his face.
On his face. It's just random.
But Restless is one of those episodes. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying he included that. He's like it doesn't mean anything. It's just funny. But what were you saying about Restless?
It's one of those episodes that you don't appreciate it when you're watching it the first time, like this first Slayer stuff. But then later on through the seasons, that episode has more and more importance. There's all these hints that Buffy is going to die, and like she has 730 days left. I looked this up recently because I completely forgot how batshit crazy this episode was. When she's talking to the first Slayer, she talks about how like you go through the fire and then you have like Once More with Feeling. Her song is like I Walk Through the Fire.
Oh wow.
There's and the biggest issue I have with it is it's just very 90s feminism in like a shop. We get it, but Buffy, you've gone beyond the Valley Girl thing. And she kind of says something about hair care products, and I'm just like, you're looking at the first Slayer who has been stripped of all of her humanity because men decided that they needed to be protected, and it was men that did this to this woman. And I guess it's very much like 90s TV's feminism, where like I feel like this episode today, the dream sequences would be similar, but a lot of the things that Buffy says to the first Slayer would be different. Everything she says, it oscillates between having quite a lot of like depth and understanding of herself to having none, which frustrates me a little on the rewatch. But overall, it's a very good episode. Just Buffy's a dick to the first Slayer. But
I agree. When you said that this episode, you don't appreciate it when you first watch it. Like when I first saw it, I was like, this is boring. I don't understand any of this. What's going on? But going back and watching it now, I'm like, I understand it. I get what he was doing here. And it's awesome. We get to meet the first Slayer for the first time. That gets covered. It's something that you kind of maybe not even, you wouldn't think about it. Like, who was the first Slayer? How did this happen? Who was the Slayer after her? How did it all begin? And then
why would it matter?
I always wondered, like, who was the Slayer before Buffy, that sort of thing. But you go back to the original, and she's She's a black woman, and I guess it's going into the whole out of Africa theory that we all began as black people. And so for her to be a black actress, that was kind of amazing for Josh Whedon to do that sort of thing. And yeah, again, like with the whole idea of taking this woman, stripping of her humanity, and then pitting her against Buffy. And Buffy kind of doesn't get where she's coming from. I mean, she's coming on strong with how she's attacking Buffy and her friends, but she doesn't understand companionship. She doesn't understand you're not alone. You don't have to be this way. But she's a product of a horrible thing that happened to her thousands of years ago. So I understand that being confronted with someone like Buffy, who is so radically different than even the Slayer that came before, like compared to Kendra, Buffy's something that's, I was gonna say unnatural, but she's unorthodox. So yeah, I didn't think Buffy had to beat her up to get her point across. But again, great episode.
Right. But that's what they do.
Because even going into the comics, like every Slayer she meets, she fights. They never get along,
or
and
fucks.
They make it worse over. Or fucks.
Jeez, that kind of sucks.
But I guess that's really all for season 4. We can move on to season 5, which features the season 4 Dracula. I forgot to mention in the comics, Dracula is in love with Xander, which is weird. But in season 5, we get the first female big bad, who is Glory. Buffy has many fights with her, and Glory hands her ass every time. And eventually Buffy confronts the head of the Watcher Council, and she's like, "What is this demon? I can't beat her. Like, what's going on? What's the deal?" And he's like, "She's not a demon. She's a god." And holy shit, we're dealing with deities now. So yeah, Glory comes to town. She wants this thing called the Key, so that she can open a portal to get back to her hell dimension, where she was banished by her 2 other gods who teamed against her because they thought she was going to become too powerful. This is where we're introduced to Dawn, who is Buffy's sister. She's been here all along.
She's been there all along.
Really, she's always been here. But Giles becomes less of a character due to Anthony Stewart Head's desire to spend more time in his native country. And this is where we get the episode "The Body," where Joyce, Buffy and Dawn's mother, dies. So I guess we can start. Let's start with Jock this time. What are some of your opinions on season 5?
If I'm honest, I was kind of so confused through a lot of season 5. First of all, I wasn't understanding why Dawn was there. I thought her character was okay, but it just seemed they didn't really explain it until halfway through.
Yeah, which was kind of the point. I mean,
Yeah.
You don't realize that, but it was bold, if not.
Yeah, it was a really
popular.
interesting way of doing it, because you're kind of like the characters themselves. You're supposed to always have believed she's there, but you are a TV show watcher, and you're like, did I miss a season?
Yes.
Right.
Father?
Was she living with a
Because it was still.
Yeah.
We still didn't have this whole industry around the TV shows explaining everything, and there were magazines and all that, but you couldn't just be like, hold on a second, let me go check real quick, let me look on Wikipedia, did I miss an episode, let me check somewhere, and go, okay, I guess it's just what's going on. It was pretty confusing.
And a lot of people don't like Dawn as a character. I don't dislike her. I do find some fault with the writers for the way they handle her character, because she is pretty much the same age that Buffy was when she became a Slayer, or when she first moved to Sunnydale. But Dawn acts so much more immature than what Buffy and Xander and Willow were when they were her age. It's like she's written to be a lot younger than what she is, which is hard to deal with.
Yeah. And the actress, I think, was legitimately 14, 15 or whatever, right? Whereas
Michelle Trachtenberg,
Sarah Michelle Gellar, how old was she when the show started?
19.
She was
19 years old.
Yeah.
So she is.
I know way too much about Sarah Michelle Gellar. She was 98 pounds. She had a brown belt in Taekwondo. How do I know this? Damn fandom.
98 pounds?
Weren't her and Freddie
she's
Prinze
only,
Jr.
5'1".
together? Was that the thing?
They are
They still
married.
are.
They have a couple of kids. They
I don't
have
know.
been in a season of Rebels together, because Freddie Prinze Jr. plays one of the lead characters, and she played one of the bad guys, and it's like the first time.
Yeah, he's Kanan,
I know
and
what
she
you did
was
last summer or something.
she was like one of the Inquisitors.
Oh no! Since Scooby Doo, it's like the first thing that they've been in together since Scooby Doo.
And I think that's awesome. Like Freddie and Daphne are actually married in real life. That's cool.
Can I just say one thing? Is that like referencing all of this? This is like 7 Degrees to Kevin Bacon, but like Scooby Doo and all that. Matthew Lillard would have been great on an episode of Buffy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it didn't happen because they were
Don't know
always
who
like,
that is.
He played
was the
Shaggy
killer.
in the Scooby Doo movies.
There we go. That's a better reference.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and I think he's like the voice of Shaggy for the Scooby Doo cartoons because he is Shaggy. But
But I dislike Dawn, but that's mainly because of writing. I find I do like that she's bratty and naive because her older sister's the Slayer. Like, she's never had to have responsibility because her older sister has to be responsible for the world. And she's protected her like her entire life. She hasn't had to deal with this shit, and that's why she's a brat. And I like that. I think it works really well. I like Glory, Ben. It's still to this day when I see like the guy that played Ben and other things, I intrinsically don't trust him. Like, he can't play a good guy for me because I'm like, you're gonna turn bad.
But he wasn't bad himself. He just had a goddess living in his body.
I know. It just something about it. I'm just like, you're gonna lead to someone's downfall. I feel it. But yeah, that
Glory's
Joyce.
probably the. Oh yeah.
Oh, Glory. Yes, let's talk Glory.
I think looking at the big badge, I think she's my favorite overall. She's just Cordelia with superpowers, and it's awesome. And I just love the way she throws shade, just all the stuff that she says. Like, I feel like she would be a very big, she'd be a very interesting person to see on RuPaul's Drag Race as a judge.
I feel like if she got her shit together, she would be worshipped very quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Like, but she just didn't. She was like, no, I just want to go home, and it's going to destroy this world because I don't care about this world. But if she cared a little bit about like this world, she'd be like, no, I'm going to rule it.
And she's a goddess, and she's so materialistic. She likes clothes, she likes shoes, she likes big apartments, she likes the finer things in life. Just don't piss her off, and then she'll rip you in half.
Like, yeah. Athena gets pissy because Poseidon rapes someone in her temple, so she makes that poor woman Medusa.
Oh my God, that's what happened?
Yeah.
all right. Well, I have to run, guys. Just running out of time here, but I want to say about season 5 that it could have been a fitting finale. The end, it could just end the series there. Really, same thing with season 3. Really, actually, could have just ended the series there. Would have been great. Also, you should end this podcast with clips of Miss Cleo. That's all I have to say.
It might be a good idea to just end the podcast here because season 6 and 7 aren't that great. But if people still want to power ahead, we will keep on going, and I'll think about the Miss Cleo thing.
Yeah, I would talk about. I just don't have time. I got to run, unfortunately.
Don't go. You hear me?
But I am kind of interested to talk about them. I just don't have the time at the moment. But because those, I only watch them when I haven't rewatched those later seasons yet. I only watch them when they're on TV. So. It's been a while. Yeah.
All right. So appreciate you coming by to talk Buffy for a little bit of time. I guess it's perfect that you're heading out now because this is when it should have ended. The show it has a perfect finale.
That's right. And well, yeah. Thanks for putting this together. I mean, this is a great chat. I really enjoyed it. So I gotta continue my rewatch. I think.
All right, Adam, thanks for stopping by. We're going to continue with the Buffy discussion, and move on to one of the worst season of Buffy ever, which is season 6.
No, shall we talk about Joyce's death? Just because Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's a natural death. Everyone dealing with it. I really enjoy watching like Xander. Oh, not so much Xander, but Anya have to deal with human death for the first time with her newly emerging human emotions is just fantastic. Like, she just doesn't understand why this person can't come back. And even when I've lost people in my own life, like I know that feeling where it's just like, no, they're still here. but they're not. All I have left of them is my memories, and you struggle with that. And then Willow just panicking over like what she should wear to go to the hospital, and it's just like those little things that you focus on. Like, I remember that for my aunt's funeral. Like, that's what I focused on. I'm like, oh, she doesn't want me to wear black. Like, what do I wear? Like, but she's not around. But, you know, just those things that you focus on at a time of like this high crisis, and it's so human and it's so devastating. And Joyce does kind of come back with that weird episode where Dawn resurrects her, but like the spell is stopped just as they're about to open the door, and they never know if it works.
Yeah, in that I'm glad. And then there's another episode where the first evil portrays her to Dawn, and she has like a vision of her. She's like, Buffy and her friends, they don't choose you, they don't love you, or something. She's trying to manipulate Dawn against the rest of them. But I'm kicking myself for almost forgetting to talk about the body, because such a powerful, raw episode. And again, there's a brief moment where Buffy fights a vampire, but really the episode's about them dealing with this death. And like you said, it's not the supernatural. It's something completely natural. It's a brain aneurysm, and there's nothing you can do magically to stop it. Buffy can't punch this enemy. Willow can't do a spell to stop it from happening. Maybe she could, I don't know. But again, it's not an enemy they can contend with in the usual ways. And Sarah Michelle Gellar gives a fantastic performance. Like, everyone in this show is just at their best. Even Michelle Trachtenberg, I think that's like how you pronounce her last name. Even Dawn is good in this episode, because she's not acting like a petulant child. That scene where Buffy goes to school to tell her about the mom's death, and they're drawing like negative space, I think that's what you call it, around the actual bodies, and her classmates watch her break down into tears. It's heartbreaking. The whole episode is just fantastic. Jock, what are your thoughts on this emotionally gut-wrenching episode?
I can't help but to think there's some kind of connection between Glory and Ben.
You think? I don't know. I find that a little bit. That's a bit of a tinfoil theory. We'll come back to that. But Donna, any more on the body?
No, that's it. Just my love of Glory, and I wish she was still around. She feels like one of those bad people that if she came back in season 7, that'd be fantastic. It was to the point where, because I really liked Caleb in season 7, so in my brain, for whatever reason, I thought Caleb was like a secondary, like, mini bad guy to Glory, because I enjoy both of them so much that I figured they must have been in the same season together, but no, they're not.
He's the only character other than Glory who has such immense strength that Buffy has to do. She can't just go in there with a stake or a sword to kill him. Like, she has to actually think about tactical measures to fight this person, because it's beyond her level of power. So yeah, I can see that. And I feel like maybe I'm misremembering, but I think they wanted to bring Glory back in some way for season 7, but it didn't work out. Maybe I'm misremembering. I'm not sure.
I hope that's not true, because it's just devastating.
She's a great character.
Yeah. And the ending for season 5 is great. Like, Buffy has been told by the first Slayer in Restless that the gift of the Slayer is death. And she thinks it's something dark, but she realizes, like, no, her gift is death. Like, Dawn is made from her body. She can give her life to save the world, and all of her friends and family will be safe. And I really like that. I think it's such a good ending for the series. Like, you know, Buffy dies. She chooses this. It's not like Prophecy Girl in season 1, where it's been determined beforehand that she's going to die. This is her choice. Like, I like it.
It's such a fitting end to the story, because for her to be the Slayer, you can't really imagine her story ending any other way. It goes hand in hand with the job that this is, you're going to end with death, and death is your gift. Like, Slayers don't live very long lives, so it's kind of tragic knowing that eventually she would come to this fate. But it was a great way to end the show. I'm not quite sure why they would bring it. I guess it's popular. The ratings were good. So of course they're going to bring it back. But if the show ended here, it was a great moment to end it. Oh, go ahead.
I would have been quite interested if sort of like an aftermath sort of one where like Buffy didn't get resurrected and like you've sort of, they could have set up with how the ending of season 5 with Giles sort of turning into a bit of a Lipper Giles and seeing a sort of like dark aftermath thing.
Mm-hmm. I could see a world without Buffy.
Yeah.
We get a bit of that at the beginning of season 6. I mean, they used the Buffy bot to try to kind of use her as a replacement. It doesn't really work so well. So you kind of see what the world is without Buffy, but it's not quite that. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Donna.
No, I was going to say, like, I like in like the beginning of season 6, like all the other characters have stepped up. Like they are trying to live in a world without Buffy, and they're still trying to manage being on the Hellmouth and all that has to come with it. I don't like Buffy bot. I do not like Buffy bot. I do not like what Spike ends up doing to Buffy bot.
No.
Not okay. Yeah, season 6. It's worth it because Dark, Willow, and the musical episode. That's it.
So moving on to season 6. This is when, season 1 through 5 was on the WB. Season 6 is when the show went over to UPN. I forget the reasonings why that happened. But it happened. The show got picked up on UPN. So that means Angel is on a different network than Buffy, which prevents the crossover episodes from happening. There are still some crossovers that happen towards the end, but it's only because it's Buffy's final season. So some concessions were made to like, hey, this is our main show is ending. Let's forget that we're rival networks and have these actors move across, and so we can tell this final bit of story. But season 6, the worst season of the show. I mean, I really have nothing to say here. My least favorite episode is all of them. I hate the musical. I hate the big bad of this season. This season, the big bad is supposed to be these gang of nerds called the Trio. Later on, it becomes Dark Willow. But the writers of this season, they went on record as saying that the real big bad of the season is life itself. And I feel like that's just a cop-out. Coming after season 5, this is really, really weak storytelling. I think this is when Joss Whedon leaves the show and you can feel it. I have nothing else. This is awful.
The one thing I do like about when they resurrect Buffy, and you find out, I think it's in the musical episode, that like she really struggles being back and they can't understand why she's pissy and she does not attach herself to her friends again in the same way that she had in the past and all that kind of thing. And I definitely think it's the musical episode, and she reveals to Spike that she was in heaven. And
it's musical.
Yeah, they ripped her out of heaven, like, to be back here. And after being in heaven, being on earth is horrible. It is the worst thing. It is worse than hell. It is hell. It is. Why would they do that? She thought, her friends loved her, but they betrayed her so fundamentally by doing that to her. What do you have against the musical episode?
I don't like musicals on principle, like just in general. I don't like when people just burst into song. Everyone knows the music. Everyone knows the lyrics. Everyone knows the dance steps. I don't know. I just find them very irritating. The most I can stand is a Disney movie. But like trying to get me to watch West Side Story, you can just forget it.
Don't watch West Side Story.
You should watch Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages is good.
Rock of Ages?
Yeah.
Book of Mormon's fantastic.
There's also the Nazi one. Which is just so good because of the place it is.
Yeah, like I love musicals. I love all musicals. I even love Oklahoma. Which is like a horrible musical. Anyway, The King and I, so many issues with it. Love it to bits. Like getting to know you. I could do it. Anyway.
Can't do it. I know that Hamilton is supposed to be really good, but you would have to pay me to see it.
Only person on earth. But what I do really like about the musical episode is it's such a deconstruction of musicals. It's like yes, it's really weird that everyone is bursting into song. This is not okay. This is not right. What the fuck is happening? Is this mass hysteria? Or everyone's gonna die? And then at the end of the episode, you get the Spike Buffy consensual kiss.
Oh God! Speaking of that,
yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this.
Oh man! And this season, we have to talk about like right away. Like Buffy and Spike have as we mentioned earlier, Buffy comes back and she comes back a little bit wrong. She's not feeling connected to her friends. She's feeling emotionally deadened, and she's not sure why. Well, it's because she was ripped out of a heavenly dimension where she felt safe and secure and happy, and now she's back on Earth. And as anyone living can tell you, like, this fucking sucks. And she has bills to worry about, and she has to kill demons again, and it just sucks. And she wants to go back to being dead, and so she starts having sex with Spike. Well, let me rephrase that. She doesn't want to kill herself. I made her sound suicidal. Like, she's not yearning to die, but she is missing the fact that she was in heaven for that brief period. So to have some sort of emotion, she starts having sex with Spike, and he starts manipulating her and turning her against her friends. He's always whispering these really dark things to her to keep her in this bad state of mind so their relationship continues. And their sex scenes are really fucking disgusting. Like, the show's never been really graphic in that way before, but now there's doggy style sex, there's pounding on beds, and I didn't need any of it. I hate it. Jock, how did you feel about Buffy and Spike getting it on?
Seemed kind of out of place, but understandable given that she just died. So
yeah, it makes sense within the story, I guess. I just really don't like the dynamic of them together. And it's making Spike out to be that kind of character, making him make these decisions and manipulating her and playing with her mind. That makes it hard to be sympathetic to him. I feel like there's a line characters can cross when they start doing evil. Huh?
It sort of brings down them both, because both of them are doing it for pretty bad reasons and not particularly moral ways.
But I feel like she is using him in a way, but it seems like he's partially or mostly the instigator, and it's like he's preying on her. She's definitely not well, and a good person. Well, he's a vampire, so he's not a good person. No, go ahead. What were we saying?
I was just saying that he's a vampire. He's not got any morals.
No, that's right. He just has the chip in his head, and that you're supposed to still. And he's been slowly being a good, like, making the right choices. In season 5, he defends Dawn as if, that's. He's like her sworn shield. He takes care of her, and when Buffy can't do it, and when Buffy's occupied doing something else, Spike is someone. When Buffy needs to do something, she turns to Spike and like, "Hey, I need you to watch my sister," and they have an agreement, even though he's evil. So,
yeah.
But she also knows that, like, Spike just wants to fight, and if someone comes after Dawn, Spike can scratch that itch. So it kind of makes sense. Like, I do like Dawn Spike babysitting scenes. I think they're funny. But I do think so. I do think both of them are using each other. It does change when Spike forces himself on Buffy and he realizes that he's crossed the line, and that's what leads him to try and get his soul back, which happens at the end of season 6. I do like Dark Willow. I like that Xander is the one that saves him. Like, he's like, sure, if you're going to bring the end of the world, that's fine, but I want to watch the end of the world with my best friend, and you're my best friend. I like that. Yeah. I do like that's probably, I think that might be the only really good character beat of the entire season.
Yeah, the whole thing I really hated the almost rape scene. It just seemed like, it didn't feel like Buffy. It felt like some sort of weird melodrama, like a fan fiction of Buffy. And, well, I try not to use fan fiction to criticize shows. but it just did not
But it
feel
feels
like
like
it
the
was the same.
writers did not understand the characters in the same way that they had understood them in previous seasons.
Exactly. It just felt so wrong. And I'm not saying that Buffy is incapable of being sexually assaulted because she has supernatural powers. They just made her into, I feel like, the character Josh Whedon was trying to avoid. The blonde who is the petite character who gets cornered in these situations with monsters and killers, and they have to rely on someone else for help. And I felt like they could have had that same message, the same thing happen, but in a different way. The way it was shot, just the way she's just clutching herself, it just feels so wrong. I really wish they had come up with a different way of having that scene play out. And then, as you said, at the end of the season, he goes to get his soul back, which brings us to season 7.
On the one benefit of the way that like Buffy reacted, like she's used to physical violence. Like physical violence is one thing, but sexual violence is something else. Rewatching Deadwood and Calamity Jane in that series is someone who talks big, can fight, enjoys a fight, but when men come at her one-to-one and she feels like she is sexually vulnerable, like they're going to do something, she just breaks down because she knows what sexual violence is, and she can't cope. Like she just shuts down. She goes straight into like flight instead of fight, which you've seen her do previously. And I do like Buffy is very similar in that way. She doesn't know sexual violence, like she can punch a guy, she can be in a fight, like that doesn't scare her, but that boundary being crossed does, because it's violence on a whole different level, and it is about power. And I do like that they showed that it was different, but then again, all the other issues with just the characters not being the characters that we know and love until Xander is a good guy for a change.
Yeah, that's a good point. That there's never been sexual violence on the show before. I think there's only one time where someone tries to grope her and she like smashes his head into a dashboard or something. But so yeah, it's a good point. Like this is her first time having to deal with this, so she's not going to react to something that we've seen before. But
it has been discussed on the show in the past, like, you know, Angelus in his before he met Buffy, like when he was bad, you know, it's mentioned that rape and murder was like some of his favorite things to do. You know, and he tortured people with that, but you don't see it. I think that's the difference. You just don't see it. It is mentioned, but you don't, you know. Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm glad the show didn't go into the like George R.R. Martin territory with all that sort of stuff. And of course, it's network television, so they really couldn't. But I think that Season 6, there's some other stuff to discuss, but I'm sorry, I just really... Oh, well, Dark Willow, I did enjoy that arc. Having Buffy pitted against her best friend, and Willow losing Tara was awful. And it's something that people... I remember when it happened, people were concerned, like, why on TV shows do gay characters have to get killed to send their significant others into, like, spirals of rage or depression? Why does this have to be a plot point all the time? And that's where the whole trope of kill your gays comes from. But I didn't, let's say, something that I didn't acknowledge when it first came out, but I do see as a valid criticism. I thought maybe Buffy as a show that's, you know, talks about all sorts of different things. It's the first show to ever include a lesbian or a homosexual sex scene on it. Would have treated their relationship a little bit better with more respect. But Willow's arc, turning evil, never saw it coming. I knew they were building up to it over the season, but having seen someone who started season 1 as being this shy girl who could barely stand up to Cordelia to now trying to end the world was insane. Like one of the craziest character arcs I've ever seen.
Yeah, I did like the magic addiction parts, but I had issues with Willow and Tara's relationship since Glory sent Tara crazy. I know it was meant to show like a softer side of Willow, like caring for her partner who can no longer function like she did before. But yeah, ever since that, I I disliked Crazy Tara so much that I didn't mind that she died, just because I just didn't like the storyline between them anymore, which is really horrible.
Wow.
But that's mean. I know, but she was exhausting.
Oh, no.
Like, I found the entire thing exhausting. So when she was gone, I was quite happy. But before Tara went crazy, I really liked her and Willow. But yeah, it probably didn't have the impact that it was meant to because of my own opinion of it. Yeah.
Which is totally fair. I've said on other episodes that we've done, Sam from A Song of Ice and Fire, I wish he died, and he's not a bad character. He's kind of like Tara. They're both very shy, non-confrontational people, trying to live in two different, dark worlds, and I want him dead. But when Tara died, it didn't hit me as a character death because I'm like, oh, Willow's just going to bring her back to life. And then in the next episode, it's immediately like, nope, she's gone for good. And I was like, oh shit, that sucks. I didn't miss her that much, which I guess is kind of mean as well, because you expect to have this, it's supposed to be a dramatic moment that's supposed to like break your heart. But I was kind of like, oh man, that sucks. What's going to happen next? Jock, do you have any reactions to the death of Tara, whatever her last name may be?
I found it very unexpected, sort of like, just like the fact and beer that also seemed like a really weird way to get killed in this series.
Oh yeah, because gun violence is not really a thing in the show. I think I can count on one hand how many times like a firearm is used, and she gets shot.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Like, I just didn't see it sort of like traditional weapons being really that useful in this sort of world.
But I guess it speaks to Warren, who is the character who kills her. He's one of the trio. He's a rampant misogynist. Like, he hates women, and it's not surprising that he commits this shooting based on the fact that Buffy beat him in a fight. So he comes to her house, which is something villains rarely do on the show. I think it's only happened once with Glory coming to Buffy's house. He shows up and he shoots Buffy and he shoots Tara by mistake. So it fits. I think, I'm not sure if they were trying to touch on maybe some sort of real world issues with toxic masculinity and that sort of thing. But if you look at him, he's some sort of like a Elliot Rodger type of character, if you guys are familiar with that mass murderer.
Is he the sort of suicide cult misogynist thing?
I think he was...
Incels, I think it's called. Incels, I think it's called.
Yeah, he was an incel, yeah.
Yeah.
He was very upset that women wouldn't sleep with him. He wanted to be rich so he could, he realized, he thought that being rich would make him much more attractive to women because women only like good looking guys with money and nice cars. And eventually his beliefs drove him to kill his roommates and go on like a rampage shooting people, and that ended with him killing himself. So yeah, kind of like Warren, where Warren was Warren and his friends, they were both all like Warren had a girlfriend, but he was just a dick. Like, he just thought he could control women, should be under his control.
Well, you seem to think everybody should be under his control, like even the other two.
Yeah, he bullied them because one of them thought he was, Jonathan he was coming into the view that Warren is wrong, which is why he ends up getting killed later. And then the other one was in love with him. So that's why he was able to manipulate those two.
Yeah.
But in the end...
Warren is like... in the early days of the internet, some of the writers had been on some forums where Buffy is getting bad-mouthed because she is a female character with so much power. And they are just reading the wrong forums, and they're like, we're going to make a bad guy that's all of our, like all of these people's bitchings.
Oh, like the people who are currently hating Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I think there's someone else who's doing a Captain Marvel episode that we can get into more with that, but holy shit, the sheer amount of hatred people are giving to one person over statements that they probably don't even know what she actually truly said. It's because she's a woman. It's not because of what she said. It's because she's a woman. And it's really ridiculous. But on the Captain Marvel episode, I'll probably go on an incoherent rant for that. But Warren gets his skin ripped off at the end of season 6, and we find out later in the comics he's alive. But for the sake of this episode, he dies here, and Willow goes back to being normal Willow after Xander calms her down. She doesn't want to end the world anymore. But that brings us to season 7, and the last season of the television show. The big bad this season is the first evil. It's the evil that predates all evil. It's the very, very first. Weird concept for a enemy, but the first evil can only manifest itself as dead people, and the drawback to being the first evil is that you can't touch anything. So it wants to do evil things and like in the world, but it's ineffectual. Like it can't touch people, so it has to manipulate people into worshiping it, and they carry out its bidding. This is where we're introduced to the idea of potential slayers. A slayer can be, there are only a handful of girls in the world that could be slayers, and if the current slayer dies, the next one is chosen from that pool of slayers. But the first evil, its plan is to end the slayer line by doing a Jedi purge. It starts to kill all the potential slayers, and eventually wants to kill Buffy and Faith, and not really given a good reason why. I guess because evil. Something about Buffy being resurrected once it pissed the first evil off. Not quite sure. Spike comes back to Sunnydale. He has a soul now, and that's cool. At the end of the season, Buffy activates all the potential slayers and turns them into slayers. So now, throughout this whole show, she's always felt that it was up to her to save the world. She was the only person that can do it. She had all this huge responsibility on her back, but now she's not the only slayer. There's not just 2 of them. There's thousands. So Buffy can sit back and maybe relax for a little bit because there are other people out there with the power to save the day. So let's, to start off, I would like to talk about the potential slayers, because with this show, I think we mentioned earlier that this show kind of makes up things as it goes along. And the idea of a potential slayer or an army of potential slayers is kind of jarring, just like with Star Wars, and all of a sudden in Phantom Menace, we're being introduced to the idea of midichlorians. So I think it would be a good idea. If this show was written today, we would have heard of potential slayers by episode like 10. We've heard about it in the first season. So what do you guys think of the potential slayers? I think there's not Faith, Vi, Kennedy, Rona. Starting with you, Donna, what do you think about them?
I can't remember them as characters because
Oh my god,
they're all so fucking forgettable. Yeah. I've watched season 7 once, and that's it. But I like the idea of potential slayers. I think it's really cool. It allows like the watchers to essentially be actually watching people, for who, like once one slayer dies, who actually gets called up. So I like that idea. I do agree that it should have been introduced much, much earlier, especially because you do have the Watchers Council. And if they're a council and there's all this training and shit, and there's more than just one of them, of course, they're out there watching these women, making sure that they're safe. Yeah, I think it's the same issue that you have. Like, now we would have heard about them earlier, and it would have made a lot more sense, and being aware of them, and they would have been an option. I do enjoy Caleb, and his way of messing with everything, which is killing potential slayers, as a bad guy. But the only thing I really enjoyed about this season is Robin. I like the idea of a child that had a Slayer mother that died from Spike as well, where he gets his epic coat, and how that would affect a kid, not having powers, but being aware of the supernatural world, and wanting to protect people from it. I really like. I don't agree with all of his actions, but I do like him as a character. But yeah, season 7, just so disappointing. They killed Anya. I'm never going to be happy with that.
Yeah, they killed Anya. The actress actually wanted to die, but I didn't expect to see that happen. But yeah, season 7 as a whole, I thought it was almost a return to form. A lot of the earlier episodes reminded me of the early bits of the earlier seasons, of the show, with how they were back at Sunnydale again, and they were dealing with individual monster of the week type of things. And then we have the idea of the potential slayers. With each episode, we kind of begin with a random location around the world. I think we start in Istanbul and we see a girl being chased by these cloaked men and she's killed, and it's a dream that Buffy's having. And in the second episode, we find another girl, I think she's in Germany. She's being chased and she's killed. So now we're dealing with sort of a serialized story. And this show is never really, well, no, it's done that before. It's just relating to the big bad of the season, but it's sort of like this weird mystery that the show never quite has done before. If Caleb was perhaps the big bad of the season, something that can actually be touched, that can actually affect the world, that might have been better. But I kind of didn't like Caleb as a character. But before I continue, I should go to Jock and have him give his thoughts on the show.
My thoughts on the show will be more complex.
Or would you?
I really like the introduction of the first evil, where like you just kept on jumping through various big bads that were before. But I didn't really like the ending that much.
I did like that scene where the first evil goes through each and every big bad. We get to see Glory again. We get to see the mayor. Adam's there. I guess that's cool, but that was a really neat way of starting the season off.
I would just say that your whole like going for all the big bads, how great it is to see them all, and just seeing Adam's there.
That was a bit of a. You could have kept him out. It would have been fine if you just skipped straight to Glory. But what was your problem with the ending?
Don't really like how the whole sort of Hellmouth thing came to an end.
No, I didn't really like the whole seal of Danzig. I don't know what to call it. It was wherever they went down beneath the high school.
Yeah,
this was like this goat face thing, and we've never heard of that before. So we have two huge plot developments that are just now being introduced that we've never heard of before. We have this new entry to the Hellmouth, and we have these potential slayers. I'm like, you should have told us about this in season 4.
yeah.
You can't give me so much new material and not set it up.
Yeah, well, I do think I just wasn't paying attention when we first saw it.
Mm-hmm. It's just weird. I mean, there's always been a Hellmouth, but we've never seen this particular location before.
Yeah.
But I do think the ending was very fitting.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, because Buffy's there because of the Hellmouth, and for Sunnydale to get destroyed, but the Hellmouth is gone. I do like that. She was there because of it, and now it's gone, and now she can move on, but she doesn't. It's the same old shit in the comics, apparently.
Yeah, it just ruins the ending by giving her more responsibility. She should be somewhere relaxing with a tea cozy because that's what she wanted to do in her life. I can understand that she still wants to patrol every now and again, and that she would maybe be the head person in charge of the Slayer organization, but this gives her an opportunity to just, you don't have to risk your life anymore. You don't have to worry about being the only one with the burden of saving the world. The last person to speak on the episode is Dawn. She says, "What are you going to do now, Buffy?" And Buffy smiles because she can do anything. She's free. So I thought that was a really fitting way to end the series.
Yeah, I could totally, after this, like, season 7 ended, before I knew the comic books, I did kind of picture Buffy as someone who was on a beach relaxing and couldn't relax, like, just be unable to, like, every weird death, she's like, I wonder which demon it is, and just trying to involve herself, and the cops just being so fucking sick of this blonde woman that just shows up and is just like, "You have some information for me," and they're just like, "Go away. It's not a weird death. It's just, yeah, her husband cut out this person's heart. That's what happened. It's not some demon." And then her occasionally getting it right, but her just being unable to relax because it's just not in her. I could imagine Buffy like that. I could imagine like Giles being the head of like the Slayer organization and everyone just trying to keep Buffy isolated from it. Just be like, no, just a week of holiday. That's all we're asking you to do. Just stop coming into the office. No, you can't help.
You're retired. Stop.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder what would happen to all these people, like, because everyone in Sunnydale gets out, but no one sold their houses. What happens? Like, all your money's tied into that? You still got to pay that mortgage.
That's a good, like, where the heck did they, I'm pretty sure some people didn't escape. I'm pretty sure some people definitely died when that happened. Because in the comics, they consider Buffy to be a terrorist because of what happened to Sunnydale, as if she did it. Yeah, they leave behind their lives to escape. I guess it's the price to pay of surviving the apocalypse, is losing your house and all your worldly possessions.
I feel like that's kind of like some government bureaucracy shit. They, like, someone in the government goes to the initiative and is like, how did we not know this was happening and what actually happened? And to cover their asses, they just blamed Buffy.
Donna, that is exactly what happens. It's the initiative. It's the government. Yeah, it's the initiative. That is exactly what happens.
So I could write for the Buffy comic book. I am just as imaginative as those people.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure you probably do a better job because you're an actual fan of the show. Well, that's not fair. I don't know if you're out of the show, but I think you would do a little bit better at maintaining, the quality and not do something like, I don't know, bring back Warren, who was skinned alive, and have him be a big bad.
I'd bring back Jonathan because we didn't talk about this in season 3, but one of my favorite moments is him giving her class protector. I just love that moment. And like in season 3 at the end, like, she's always felt so isolated from her schoolmates and her peers and all that, and you don't really get a sense that people know what's going on, but so much bad shit happens to so many different people that, yeah, people might not talk about it, but they are aware, so they give her the little, like, sparkly umbrella. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire series.
Because it's so sweet, because people are actually, they do acknowledge the fact that she has been risking her life to keep them alive, and they acknowledge her.
And they label her, like, yeah, class protector, not a terrorist.
Yeah. She's been keeping us alive so we can graduate. The least we can do is give her an award for it. But in season 4, that vampire takes the award and steps on it. That pissed me off so bad. Do you remember that?
No, Which vampire was that? That is a bad vampire.
She's called Sunday. It happened in the first episode of the season. Like, Buffy, one of the vampires, like, steals all her stuff, and then Buffy goes to get it back, and she's going to kill these vampires, because it's a whole thing where they've been killing freshmen, and they make it look like they run away from home. So now they're doing it to Buffy, and then Buffy goes there, and the vampire is kind of like, I'm going to break your stuff, and she destroys her little class protector umbrella, which sucks. But Buffy kills her, which is the right thing to do. She's a vampire slayer. But to season 7, with Spike getting his soul back, I was not quite... I feel like there's an inconsistency here, because when Spike gets his soul back, it's not like what Angel did. He's still Spike, pretty much. He has the same attitude. He has the same name. He still dresses the same. It's just the same character, but with a soul. There's no moment of... There's like a brief week where he's penitent and he wants forgiveness, but then it's over. He doesn't spend years roaming the world feeling bad for himself like Angel did. So I thought this was...
Yeah, but Angel's a shit.
I didn't like it.
No one wants to be with Angel.
I just thought it was
yourself. Fair. Yeah, no, I do agree. Like, he does get over it a little bit too quickly. I
Yes,
did
Angel
like
is a bit
it.
mopey. Huh?
Yeah, no, I did like Spike when he tells Buffy he has the soul, and he's just dealing with the overwhelming guilt of what he has been part of for so long. But I guess his way of dealing it is just like, deep breath, move on, keep kicking, keep doing what you're good at, which is, him being Spike. But yeah, Angel's moping just gets to me. I'm just so over like his little rat eating bullshit.
He felt bad after centuries of being a mass murderer.
Yeah, but
Yeah, seems weird. We've all
if you
spent
feel that bad, you
centuries-
kill yourself, right?
To be honest, yeah, that might have been the best. Why didn't he kill him? Wait, why did they curse him with a soul? Why didn't they curse him with death? Why did that make sense? They just made him feel bad for a while, and now he's normal.
Yeah, so like obviously that curse would not have worked on Spike. He has his soul, and he was like, I'm out. Like, but I guess because Spike earns his soul back through that ritual, it doesn't have the same stipulations that Angel does. So not only does Angel get his soul back, he can, he knows he can turn back into the worst thing he can imagine, which is him without a soul, right? So
yes, you're right, though.
yeah, I guess that's the curse side of it, where Spike's like, well, if I want to get rid of this pesky soul, I could, but I did go to all that effort of getting it, so I probably shouldn't. I guess that's the difference between choice and curse.
Yeah, I get that now. Yeah, this is definitely one is a curse, one is a choice. Okay, fair enough. I just wish that Spike maybe sort of reinvented himself to show that there's a separate, there's a difference between William, who became William the Bloody, who became Spike.
So glad he did not turn back into William. Or that girl.
Writing all that bad poetry.
Yeah. Although, actually, one bad poem written to Buffy would have been hilarious.
Does he ever do that? No, he doesn't do that.
No.
He does sing during the musical episode, and she runs away. That's one of the funny moments. She just bolts.
I wonder what Drusilla thought of Spike getting his soul back.
No, she's never in season 7. Drusilla appears, but it's the first evil, so we don't know. No, we don't know. I can't remember if he meets her in the comics or not.
Or even in Angel. Does she turn up in Angel? Darla definitely just does not die in Angel.
She doesn't show up she doesn't show up when Spike is there. I remember she shows up for one, because I think Darla comes back human and Drusilla makes her a vampire again. And then Darla kills herself so that she can give birth to Connor. I think I'm right. I'm not sure.
No, that does sound right. I was this evening. I did a quick read up of Darla, and I'd completely forgotten that it's not her real name. She's actually forgotten what her name was, and before she died, she was a prostitute. She's made herself very wealthy through that, and as she's dying of syphilis, she denies the priest, and the master's like, I can use you. You're a good egg, for my uses at least.
Yeah, the master is the one that turns her into a vampire, which is cool. Even though it's you look back at season 1, you don't realize that they don't make it out to be that she is really connected with Angel in any way. You find that out later, which is sort of what you call it, a retcon, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like she hints towards it in the episode that Buffy finds out that Angel is vampire. But talking before, when you were saying Warren going to the house and shooting someone, and trying to shoot Buffy, the creepiest thing that Angelus does is he turns up at Buffy's house and draws that picture of her asleep and leaves it on her pillow. And
he pulls an Edward Cullen?
Yeah, he does, and it's to mess with her, and he knows what he's doing, and she's aware that her house is not safe. It's one of those really good moments of Bad Angel really messing with Buffy.
Oh, this was an Angelus moment. This was an Angel.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
That makes more sense.
No. Because that's what bad people do. Watch you sleep.
Yes, Stephanie Meyer, if you're listening, that's what bad vampires do. They stalk people when it's not romantic. It's not cute. It's creepy. She's not listening. But
no.
Season 7, there's not really any remarkable things. I mean, she activates all this. Well, Faith comes back. She's been off on Angel this whole time, and she comes back. The gang's all here because Faith's life is in danger because of the first evil. She shows up and she joins Buffy in this fight against evil, and the potential Slayers kind of side with Faith for a little bit because Buffy has led them. She's training them to, well, the potential Slayers all come to Sunnydale to be under Buffy's protection, like, help us, we're dying by the boatload here. And so Buffy's been training them to fight in this final battle. And after one fight goes bad, they all turn against her and they start looking to Faith as a new leader. And they kick Buffy out of her own home. What the... I wish someone would try to kick me out of my own house after coming to me for protection. It was such bullshit, but I do like Faith coming back.
This is back in the pile of, like, don't get a group of Slayers together.
No, because they immediately just start fighting each other.
Kicking you out of your own home.
And then she actually leaves. She agrees to it. I would go upstairs laughing. Like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking to.
Yeah.
But
don't let the door hit you on your way out.
You all can leave. Let's see how long you last. But Faith coming back, she's redeemed. She's gone through her redemption arc on Angel. She's a much nicer character. She still has some darkness inside of her, but she's a good guy now. She's an anti-hero. So what are you guys' thoughts on
prickly, but in a endearing way, not in a why didn't someone shoot you earlier way.
It's understandable seeing what she's been through and how she's the fact that she decided to go to jail and for her crimes is cool, but she still has that darkness in her that she's trying to work towards. She's a better character, I think, on Angel than she is on Buffy. I think characters like her, Angel tended more towards darker, more complex storylines than Buffy did, and I think Faith benefits from that sort of writing because on this show she's kind of Jessica Jones light.
Yeah, and she's always playing second fiddle to Buffy. Like, she's a reactionary character. She doesn't have the same agency on Buffy that she did in Angel.
No, and yeah, definitely a stronger character on that show. But Jock, do you have any thoughts on Faith 2.0 or after, her redemption, coming to Buffy and taking part in this final battle?
I quite liked it. Like, she was a lot better in Angel, but she was still okay in season 7, so it was still good for last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, I think, and I do like there's still that little bit of rivalry between her and Buffy. They kind of just acknowledge, and I guess it lends to the theory that Slayers don't get along. Buffy and Faith are having this, like, heart-to-heart alone, and Faith says, I think it's either Faith or Buffy, they say it was only ever meant to be one of us. Maybe that's why we just don't get along. And I don't know, maybe that's true. Maybe it's because there was only meant to be one Slayer. But they probably Slayers butt heads on this show because it's dramatic. It's not, it's drama. It's not because of any sort of mystical Highlander-ish reason that they can't get along. It's just that the show needs them to have some fights here and there.
What I will never understand with potential Slayers is why the Watchers Council, who know magic, didn't get their ass around to it and just activate them already. Because how fucked are you if you are in Germany dealing with a vampire outbreak? Do vampires just find out where the next Slayer has been activated and move away?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, why didn't someone do this a long time ago? Because if 2 is better than 1, 1,000 is better than 2. Like, this, just turn them all into Slayers. just makes more sense. You get the job done better.
Have you a little Harry Potter boarding school for Slayers? Send them around the world. Get your shit done. Vampires and demons would be eradicated within 10 years.
Definitely. And I don't get why the Slayer is kind of like local. Like she doesn't move to different locations to kill people. Like she should be like some sort of secret agent who goes on missions around the globe. I mean, I understand from the storytelling standpoint, they can't have Buffy as Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy traveling the globe. It's about her being in high school and doing things like that. But I would like a story with a secret agent Slayer, and her job is to go to different places around the globe and find out what the evil is and kill it. Sort of like Alias, but instead of Sydney Bristow not having powers, she has powers.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
I would watch the hell out of that show.
I'll write the fan fiction.
About Faith is minor criticism with sort of classism in the show, where Faith as the most working class character is put off as an antagonist a lot more, and many of the vampires take a more working class role, like sort of punk cultures, and random vampires seem to be more the ones that get killed immediately tend to be even more sort of working class clothes. And even like the jobs are seen as low moments for the character when they have working class jobs like waiters or fast food restaurants.
Oh, yeah, Buffy having to work in a fast food restaurant. Heaven forbid.
God, it sucks though. It's a really awful job to have, fast food.
It is, but like, suck it up. You have to make money.
You got to do something, and
you can't charge for being a Slayer. And the Watchers Council, who seems so rich, why aren't they flinging money at the Slayer? I was just about to say,
why don't you give? You want her to have free time to slay. You don't want her to have to pick up a shift at the Triple Meat Palace or the Double Meat Palace or whatever to make her ends meet. It would just make so much more sense to kick her some money so she can live her best life.
Kevin, but where will they get the money for the champagne water fountains?
We got to think of the champagne water fountains. That's more important than.
I would love if there was instead of activating Faith, if it was like an English person and she like has to travel to meet Buffy for whatever reason. It's like all first class, and turns up in furs, and she's just like, wait, the Watchers Council don't pay for everything for you? God, they've looked after me so well. And Buffy's just like, fucking English people, just of course.
You mean I was supposed to get paid this whole time? That would suck. But yeah, that's something I always thought of too. Like, why don't they give her some money, make it easier for her to live?
Just want to make sure she's fed well. Ugh.
Yeah, they pay Giles.
Yeah.
But I guess that maybe speaks
the Watchers
on the whole
council, just for the entire series, I just never understood them at all. They're shits. They send Wesley. They fire Giles. They have tests for Buffy. What are they going to do if she fails them? Kill her? So there's another Slayer?
If she fails the test, she dies. And it's just like, well, there's a bunch of other girls out there. We'll just get another one. But if you kill her after she's been training for 4 years, she has 4 years of training. Why would you want to risk her life to get someone that's like a newbie? And it could just end up being like a 12-year-old girl.
Ugh.
It's so primitive, or archaic rather, their institution.
I thought it was a commentary on getting political action done and the various bureaucratic hurdles you need to jump through to get the support of the state. But I may just be completely wrong with that.
Yeah, I think they were just like, stuffy English people. They drink tea.
And I guess it's supposed to be that way because it's a male-dominated thing. It's definitely speaking on the patriarchy and how she's the Slayer, even though she's stronger physically than the men controlling her, she's under their heel and she's under their orders. So that's probably why she's not paid. She's not treated as well as Giles is, or as a Watcher is.
But wasn't like Giles's aunt a Watcher as well? Like there's female Watchers.
No,
She's
there
the
are
one.
female Watchers. That's true.
Yeah, but the female Watchers that we have are the ones that like betray Faith.
Yep.
And do that. I just the basic personality test before becoming a Watcher would be good. Are you going to be I've just forgotten the word for it. A powerful magical artifact's going to make you betray your job. Yes, maybe don't become a Watcher.
You strongly agree or strongly disagree?
Yeah.
I will not become corrupted by power.
Yes.
It's and also, I know this is
just like all the way
one thing
through. Just like, sorry, yeah, this is just my bitch on the Watchers Council.
No, it's definitely flawed, and I think it comes from the fact that we mentioned this before, but this show is not. It didn't have a set world. It's not good with world building. I mean, it's kind of just episode by episode. So if someone, I think that the Watchers Council was something Josh Whedon has like a nebulous idea of it. Like he didn't have any firm idea that there's a head of the Watchers Council and they're potential slayers. But if he sat down he just wrote enough of it to carry the story. So when we get to later seasons, they have to fill it in later, and it kind of just feels poorly planned, which it kind of is.
And how does the fuck does magic work? So Giles can participate in magic and wields some magic, but he's not a witch like Willow because she's very good at it and she has some more magic.
She's supposed to be like a natural. Like there's some people who learn it and they're good at it, but some people have just like this innate ability to do things. So that's why she's so powerful and kind of frightening, because it's kind of just effortless to her.
Yes, and there's times where they say like she's come up with new spells which she's not meant to be able to do.
Yeah, so she's kind of just what do you call it? A prodigy when it comes to that sort of thing. One thing I know this might sound really cruel, but if there's when Faith became problematic as a Slayer, I just never understood why they were trying to they were so invested in fixing her. I just thought, like, if she's in a coma, kind of just maybe kill her and hope for the best with the next one.
Oh yeah, pillow over the face.
I was gonna say that, but I was like, no, that sounds too harsh.
Well,
oh no, it's all right. Just
government and she was majority working class. I thought it was sort of a commentary on how the government tries to fix working class societies and cultures toward their more sort of middle class view of success, whether it's through certain education programs and so forth.
Yeah, I never thought about it from like a class perspective. I didn't know that she was, but Faith mentioned that, she's from Boston and she grew up, her life was a little bit rough when she was growing up. I never thought of the comparison, or that they were making a critique of like working class culture or people.
Yeah, and just like the massive differences between the very middle class Buffy, whose life has been quite easy, even though her parents are divorced and all that kind of stuff. Compared to Faith's life, which has been much more difficult.
Yeah, I don't think she ever mentions it either. Like, but I think Faith does go on a rant every now and again when she's like, you've had it. You look where you've grown up. Look what you have going for you. And I don't have that. I don't have friends. And I didn't have a family. So, this is who I am. And I live my life 5 by 5.
I thought when Faith was in a coma, she was under like a Jane Doe. Like, that could be completely wrong.
I don't think so, because they knew where she was and who she was.
Yeah, sorry. See, I must have thought that because why else would they just let her be?
Oh, when she wakes up, one of the nurses like she goes to the telephone and she's like, she just picks it up and she dials a number and she says she's awake. And that's supposed to like hint that there's a watcher watching her who alerts the other watchers that she's awake. And I'm just thinking, why didn't you guys like have a facility somewhere where you can have her in like a room, like a steel room with a bunch of locked doors. So when she wakes up, she doesn't just walk out and start killing people like she does.
Yeah. Because the last thing you need, like, of someone who's like woken up from a coma, who probably has significant brain damage, is for them also to have superpowers.
Yeah, you don't want a rogue slayer like just wandering around, and that's what you get. We do get a rogue slayer on Angel. Really damaged. The episode is called Damaged, but like she suffered a lot of like psychological trauma and physical trauma as a kid, and she's kept in a mental institution or psychiatric hospital. And when Buffy activates all the Slayers, she becomes a Slayer, and it's like the worst thing that you could have given somebody. She has all this power and all this rage, and she just goes on this rampage killing people. Did you guys see that episode?
No, I'm gonna go find it though. That sounds like a good episode. I do like the implications of. Yeah.
I wish I didn't spoil it for you though.
No, I actually enjoy spoilers because I know what I'm looking out for. I'm one of those idiots that reads like the plot synopsis of Wikipedia before going to see a movie.
No, because it's not stated what she is. Like when the episode you'll see it if you ever watch it. Like when the episode starts, you just see like this girl. She has like this immense amount of strength, and she's killing people, and she's beating people up, and she's stealing from places, and she's kind of crazy. She takes blood and she draws this like these symbols on her face, and she's just wandering around LA like being like an insane murderer. And Angel and Spike, they think she's possessed by a demon, but it's not like halfway through the episode before they realize she's a vampire slayer. And there's some other cool stuff that happens that I won't tell you because I want you to be excited.
Yeah, this has actually made me want to watch a lot more Angel because I don't think I finished Angel. Like Cordelia had the visions, and then she had a really bad haircut.
Oh my god.
This is how I define things. No, I just didn't like her with like the blonde hair or the short hair or the blonde short hair. And I know
she eventually learns karate or like martial arts, which is cool.
Yeah, and then she becomes like a higher being, which like when she was an angel, I think.
Yeah, she becomes one of the powers that be, I think.
Yeah. Because I really want to watch it for because I've heard like the Fred and Wesley stuff is really good.
It's they have a scene together that I won't spoil for you that is just tears. Like,
when
good.
Fred dies.
Good acting. Oh, there we go.
Oh, when Wesley dies and Illyria, what's her name? Pretends to be Fred as Wesley's dying. She's like, "Can I lie to you now?" And he's like, "Yes, please."
That's such a good line. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
how
when they both die to each other is good. Oh, go ahead.
How are the deaths in Angel so much better than the ones in Buffy?
I don't know. I think that show is geared more towards darkness and gray storyline, gray characters. And Buffy, at the end of the day, even though it deals with some mature topics, I think it's more still lighthearted. So they don't want to do too much to make the viewer upset. They don't push the envelope that far.
I feel like Buffy's a bit weird in that sort of way because it has like really dark bits and the rest is all lighthearted. So you can go from like witty comebacks and then 20 minutes later somebody's getting flayed. It is quite a big jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't like bureaucracy or lawyers, but Wolfram and Hart I really enjoyed. I liked them fighting each other, like these demon lawyers, and yeah, I should really give Angel another rewatch because that's the one I haven't done.
I know this is a Buffy episode. We should be praising it. I'll say this though. I think Angel, quality wise, it's the superior show because it keeps getting better. And it ends right at like the best part, when it's at the highest of quality. Like the show is at the best at its best moment. You do want more of it. They got canceled, which kind of meant, you know, they had to wrap the story up in a really rushed way, but Angel season 5 was like some of the best of the Buffyverse.
Plus Lorne. Loved Lorne.
R.I.P.D. to I forget the actor who plays him. Something Hallett, Andy Hallett, I think he passed away too.
Yeah, a couple of years ago now, I think.
Mm-hmm. But
plus it has Gina Torres in it, and I love her.
She's amazing. I really do. I've loved her since Cleopatra 2525.
Well, I haven't watched that. It does occasionally pop up on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I feel like I must need to give it a watch because I liked like Andromeda and those weird 90s sci-fi shows. So yeah.
No, just for like 90s sci-fi shows, I feel like Stargate is very similar to Andromeda.
Yeah, like I can't. I remember watching them, but if you asked me about plot points, I couldn't tell you anything. Like I would wake up and watch like Xena and Hercules and Cleopatra 2525 or Jack of All Trades, and which had I think Bruce Campbell in it, which was cool. But and like Baywatch Hawaii, which had Jason Momoa on it. Oh man, this is just a nostalgia overload. I'm gonna probably spend the whole day on YouTube watching all these clips of these shows.
But like that's what's so great about Buffy, right? It's everything that's good about the 90s. Even the trashy parts. Like, I have not thought about Roswell in so long. Or Charmed. And they're both series that got not update, reissue. No, not reissue. Reboot this year. And I know Buffy's coming, but it could come quicker. The world needs Buffy again.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I'm starved for new Buffy. I mean, I went out and read the comics, and that just hurt me more. But we are almost at 3.5 hours. I try to keep these episodes under an hour and under like 2 hours, but I just love the show so much I could go on forever. But to kind of wrap things up, you did bring up, Donna, the new show that's coming out. I just want to hear you guys' thoughts. Like, this show is it's not written by Joss Whedon. He is assisting the new showrunner with writing it. She is a screenwriter. Well, of course, she's a screenwriter, a black woman, and the new Slayer is supposed to be a black Slayer, and it's supposed to be. I've heard conflicting stories. I think the backlash to the news of a new Buffy show kind of got people scrambling to rewrite some things, but basically when it first came out that this new show was coming, it was going to be Buffy again, or it was said that it's a reboot of Buffy with a new Slayer, and Buffy now will be a black girl, and people were kind of like, what? No, we don't want that. Can we just get more of the story set in this world? And that's when people started changing their changing their story. They were saying, no. It's not a reboot. It's not a remake. It's a reboot set in the same world with a new Slayer. But I'm not quite sure if I believe that or not. But anyway, have you guys heard of this? And what are you guys' thoughts on this new show?
I hadn't heard.
Do you know? You hadn't heard? Oh. You missed some excellent internet shit like flinging at each other.
It got really.
It was.
I don't participate.
You don't.
Oh, I don't participate. I will watch though.
I participate and I hate myself for wasting my own time. But yeah, there's another Buffy show supposed to come out, but it's either Buffy the Vampire Slayer for 2019 or it's whoever the Vampire Slayer for 2019. So yeah, Donna, do you have any thoughts?
I saw the post that the showrunner put up about a day after it was announced, where she was like, look, there's never going to be another Buffy and another Willow and another Xander. or another Giles. Like, these are iconic characters that, and the way that she wrote it, you could tell that she loved those characters. And I think she was very earnest. I am looking forward to her take on a Slayer in the modern world. Because before, like, any of the comics, you had Frey, which was essentially something similar, like, 100 years in the future. What's the Slayer going to be like? I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch way too much of it. Is it with the CW, though?
I'm not sure. Do I want it to be?
No. Because, like, I gave Riverdale a shot, and no. Just...
I will...
They all descend so quickly. Just so quickly, and they get all the characters wrong. Like, watching melodrama is fine, but shitting all over characters is not.
Yeah, I don't think they need...
do it. Yeah, and like this is like, but like with Riverdale, there is no consistency to the characters, like how they act. They change week to week in such weird ways that I'm very sure they are just written by different groups of writers, because that's how it comes across. Like, and no one communicates. Yeah. And I don't like that about like current teenage shows. Sorry, Jock.
Yeah, I've been seeing that with a lot of things recently. It's almost like showrunners have just disappeared.
Yeah.
Over the day or strike or something, and now it's just writers not speaking to each other late in episodes in various series.
Yeah, and that's what made Buffy so great. So I have very high hopes, and I expect that they will be met, and I look forward to seeing what she does. I have no qualms with having a show set in the Buffyverse and the main character being, a young black woman, because I think it's fascinating, especially if you're doing it California again, especially now. I think it'll probably be a lot more realistic than the original Buffy. I think it'll be a good take. Everything that she has posted about it since, I think she's someone who loves the Buffyverse and wants to write in it and play in it and do her own things, and that sounds fantastic. Yeah. So you participated in the internet shit show.
Yeah. I mean, oh wait, you're talking to me or Jock?
You.
No, like, I argue online when I know I shouldn't go to the comments. I should just skip over it and like read a book or something. But then I see something, I'm like, what are you talking about with this? This is, because people with this show, they're like, oh, it's a young black girl. Well, here goes more forced diversity. And I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, get the hell out of here. What are you talking about? I
love how when people say forced diversity, it's like, just look out your window.
I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't understand what the concept of forced diversity is. Like, if someone wants to sit down and write a story about a black man or a woman, a black person, they can. It's not because they're having it's not always an agenda. It's not always someone trying to make a political statement. It's just a story. Why can't it just be a story? Why has there be some sort of nefarious hidden motive? It's just it makes me so mad. And so I argue online about this all the time.
I've completely forgotten the new showrunner's name.
Oh, for the Buffy show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking her up. Her name is Monica Breen. It's Monica Breen. And just looking at her writing credits, she's probably the perfect person for this. She wrote for Alias, which is an amazing show with a strong female lead. It's like did you guys watch Alias?
I watched a little bit of it. My friends in high school were obsessed.
Yeah, I watched it after it aired because I was like, I need something that's like Buffy. I need something that's similar. I need a female character kicking ass. And Alias, I loved it. It was cool. She wrote for Charmed. She wrote some Lost. She wrote some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So like, she's good with these kind of. This is in her wheelhouse, like a story about the supernatural, fighting demons, monsters. She's cool, and I think she has a great track record for it. So it's not. I'm saying that just to in her defense, because some people might think, well, she just was chosen because she's a black woman. No, she has an excellent resume. So you can't really complain. You can't really criticize her for not being able to, or not having the skill set for this.
Yeah, and just rewatching episodes for this, even in the later episodes, the CGI is not great.
No.
Not even in the same. Like the prosthetics are amazing. They're so good. So I look forward to that kind of stuff as well, like dusting vampires and.
Oh yeah,
And I really need, like, Twilight was so long ago, but that palette cleansing of the previous vampires where Buffy was rebelling against, these 80s horror movie tropes and Anne Rice novels. Thanks, Buffy, because I had to read Anne Rice. I'm never getting that time back. I cannot scour my brain of Anne Rice, and I wish I could.
You too? Oh my gosh, I read all of them up to Memnoch the Devil, and I was like, you know what? I need to stop. This is not good. It's not bad writing, but it's just I need to be reading something else.
I definitely Interview with the Vampire, then Queen of the Damned, The Vampire Lestat. And I think I gave up after the third. I think I actually lost interest.
I read The Tale of the Body Thief. It's just surreal. Queen of the Damned, yeah. And I remember liking it at the time, but then I guess something switched on in my head where I was like, you're wasting your time.
Queen of the Damned was not bad. The Vampire Lestat made me just not care anymore. Also finding out that she essentially wrote an erotic version of Snow White and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm out. Like, I found out Alan Moore did the same thing. I think it's called like The Girls or something. And I tried to read that and I'm like, nope, I'm out. Like, I really enjoyed League of an Extraordinary Gentleman as a comic. I really love it. No, Alan Moore, now I just feel creepy. And Anne Rice makes me feel creepy. Something about it.
Her writing is just so rich and thick. And I don't mean rich, I'm not saying in a positive way. It just feels so dense getting through it. It's like all of the stuff Martin does with describing characters, what they're wearing, what they're eating. She does that, but it's so much more. Like people talk about his writing when it comes to descriptions, like hers is, yeesh. Yeah,
hers feel like humidity, like just like a super humid day, and
that's a great way.
Yeah, and it feels like you're swimming when you're walking, and you never feel clean. That's the other part about it. You're sweating and nothing is evaporating, and you don't feel clean. And that is Anne Rice. Sorry.
That is the perfect way of describing it. No, that's the perfect way of describing it.
It's
heavy.
Yeah, and I look forward, because just the sheer amount of supernatural stuff. I look forward to how Buffy was originally a palate cleanser for that 80s stuff. I look forward to the next Buffy being a palate cleanser for this naughty shit. Like, start again, look at the tropes, pull them apart, make fun of them, have some wisecracking teenagers, and let it be fun, and let it be sad, and let it be character driven. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And I think that will happen. Especially if she's written for like Charmed and stuff. Like, she knows this stuff in and out.
I have faith in her as a writer. I mean, I've enjoyed her work previously, so I don't see any reason to doubt her ability to carry the series. It's kind of, I'm half sad, I feel I'm of two minds of this with Joss Whedon not being a part of it. I think he doesn't have really any interest in coming back to do Buffy again. So I would rather him like be her advisor as he is, because you can feel someone's disinterest if they're writing something that they feel forced to write. So having her, I think she's going to approach it with like, it's going to be Buffy by way of Monica Breen. She's going to have fresh eyes on it. Like she's going to have the energy to tackle this with, I want to write a new show, and instead of Josh Whedon being like, I guess I should do a reboot because that's the thing that's happening right now. So yeah, I'm really excited for the show, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen when it comes to the fight choreography, the dialogue. How are they going to? It's going to be high school hell again, but this time for millennials, or what would you call teenagers these days? I don't know. I'm just interested.
I think they're still millennials.
Gen Z or something. I think that's it.
Oh, can you say that one more time?
I think my generation is called Gen Z or something.
Gen Z?
It's because they're all zombies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gen Z. What would we say?
Taindana. They're all missing.
Sorry. It's just the World War Z thing. It's fine. It's fine. That book has ruined me. Now, whenever I hear that, I'm just like, there's the zombie generation because of smartphones. The whole techno-pagan thing. I hope they do that again. Because that's fun.
I hope they're just a little bit careful. They can just don't. Well, you know what? I still have faith. I don't think that they're going to go too far and try to be all like, doing Instagram and Facebook and being kind of cringy with, teens these days.
I think the TV show American Gods did a good sort of version of that. Well, was a book to an extent. Their interpretation of tech with his sort of.
Yeah, I haven't seen that show, so I can't really speak on it. But I've heard good things.
They could also do something similar to Sabrina. So the relaunch of that, I don't know if the character is trans, but they're definitely gender non-conforming. One of Sabrina's friends is starting like a women's club, like literature club at the school. So they're dealing with very modern topics. At some point, maybe one of them uses a computer, but none of them have phones. All the clothing is very 1960s, so it's like this nondescript time where the problems that they're dealing with are modern, but they don't have to deal with what modern technology brings into it, so they could do it something similar. Just have the bare bones, because if you show how people actually use technology these days, shows would be very boring. Everyone has a conversation at their phones because, even though you're talking to the person, you're still looking at something. No, TV should show us a better way to interact.
Yeah, it can't be too realistic because no one wants to watch a show that's exactly like real life. We do it for a little bit of escapism, but when it includes a little bit of things that you can relate to, that's when it's hits the sweet spot.
Yeah, and I do think the new Sabrina series does that very well.
Okay, yeah, I gave it. I think I watched one episode, and I'm not saying it was a bad show, but nothing about it made me want to come back to watch more.
Yeah, hey, any series that the Church of Satan sues for copyright infringement.
Did they really?
Yeah, in the Christmas episode, the production designer just didn't realize that there was a copyright on that goat statue and used it, and they weren't happy. But instead of taking them to court, they now have a deal where someone from the church, when they're doing that kind of stuff, has to come in as a consultant, so it's not used in a way that disparages the church.
That's good. Good on Sabrina for at least acknowledging the Church of Satan and the about it, and including them in the project rather than just use them for this is something that's scary, and I guess the devil we're just gonna use it for whatever and not care about what it actually means to people who actually care about it. So yeah, kudos. I don't know.
It's such a weird time. It's a weird time. This is why we need Buffy again.
All right, so we discussed Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a little bit of Angel, the comics. it got very silly because some of the things that happen in the comics are ridiculous, but the show it still stands the test of time. It's a great TV show that even to this day you can go watch and enjoy. There's still a lot of relevant plots that happen, subject matters that get covered. So if you are listening and you just listen to the podcast because you like hearing the Vassals talk, but this is not a show that you watched, we all recommend it. Highly recommend it. Try to get through season 1 and 2 to get to the good stuff.
And watch it. Get your shit together
and watch it. It's on Hulu right now. Binge it. It's great, fantastic, classic television. And again, thank you all for listening. Thank you guys for coming, and I will see you all for the next episode. To make this part of the show, let me say welcome to the pre-show Aftershow, where we're talking a little bit about we're talking about the main episode, we're talking about the main subject, but not really touching on the subject. But the main episode is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we're going to talk about the comics. Every other host here has not read them. I have suffered through each season of Buffy post season 7, and I'm just going to read off some things that happened there and get you guys' reactions. So, are we ready for some nonsense?
Introductions?
Oh no, we're going to do introductions after when we get into the main part of the episode.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm as ready as
Buffy
this show
should be
was for the
fast.
change to UPN.
Oh yeah, no one's ready for that.
That is a niche knowledge thing.
But also, in the comics, Giles gets killed by Angel.
Fuck off. That's like Cyclops killing like Professor X.
It happens. He snaps his neck.
Never happened.
Was he Angel?
So like he becomes evil again, you mean?
He becomes this being called Twilight, and for season 7 he's the big bad, but you don't know it's him because he's wearing a mask and this sort of like duster like Spike kind of has. So he's traveling.
So not cliche at all.
It's really awful, but he's going around the world pitting all these forces against Buffy and the Slayer cells that she has, because we find out that there are like 1,500 Slayers around the world, and she has 500 of them working in different factions across the globe doing what Slayers do. But Twilight...
Does she ever meet Sam the Slayer?
Sam. I wish she did so she can kill him.
Yeah, so Angel. So I know Angel ended, and it was kind of sad because it ended like literally on a huge cliffhanger, and you were like, "What the hell?" And I really enjoyed that show. But didn't they have a comic that just sort of finished that off, and then did it keep going? Is that what happened, or? I
barely remember I remember the comics a little bit. I know that in the finale, what's his name? I think it's Gunn. He's like mortally wounded, and they're in the alley. They see the dragon in the sky, the army of demons.
Yeah, and there's like a ton of demons.
Yeah, but he gets turned into a vampire to save his life, and he becomes sort of like a mini big bad. Angel tames the dragon, and he flies around on it. It gets really weird and silly. But I really can't
is he shirtless when he does that?
There's dragons?
Yes, he's saying Dracarys.
Wait, is he shirtless wearing the duster?
No. He's just wearing his usual Angel dark suit.
Because that would be David Boreanaz right there, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Also in the comics, Xander and Dawn are a couple and they have a baby.
Nope. Not okay.
Wait, what?
No.
Xander and Dawn have
What's
sexual
the age
intercourse.
difference, I guess? Because Dawn shows up, like, after several seasons, she just exists. I didn't hate her as much as other people did, but, I mean, she's not that much younger than, right? She's only, like, a few years younger, so I guess that could make sense.
If the age,
Wait, was she still a giant at the time?
she was a big woman. No, she was a giant when the season first started, and then she turned into a centaur, and then she turned into a doll. But she became human when they got together.
A doll.
She was cursed.
Now, which one of them serves House Lannister?
Because it is kind of incestual when you think about it. Yeah, 'cause, like he was like a big brother mentor figure.
Yeah, Xander was always kind of creepy.
That I heard. Yeah, well, he was teenage boy creepy. He got less creepy as the seasons happened. And more adult-like, I guess. But he was a total teenage boy in the early seasons. But
Nope, I didn't like it either.
I liked him and Anya.
Don't even get me started on Anya's death. Everyone else gets resurrected. You resurrect fucking Darla, but you don't resurrect Anya? No, eat a bag of dicks.
Well, she does come back in some form, but then she disappears again.
Bunny dicks.
Was that because like the actress didn't want to come back, or?
That's what I heard. Like she was kind of done with the character, so she didn't want to be like contractually obligated to come back if they were doing anything else. But I don't get why. Like it was a series finale. You just say I don't want to. You don't have to die.
Well, yeah, and I know definitely at the time they were considering, the show can come back, all this. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes writing decisions, what can you do?
It was very we'll get to that when we talk about season 7, but I told you Giles died, but Giles gets resurrected and he's a little kid. He comes back as a little boy that does magic.
Is little boy Giles
I thought maybe he just gets to be a boy.
Same as adult Giles?
In the library with...
Yes, actually, yeah. They resurrect him and he's a little kid and he has all of Giles's memories and his attitude, but he's just pint-sized and it's cute.
Giles was adorable as an adult. I feel like child Giles is just cuteness overload.
I wish I had pictures.
Adorable,
I mean. Yeah. And he goes through like a little bit of puberty and he's a little angry about that, but it's just funny.
Wait, is it like the episode where Giles becomes a teenager again? Does he go through a Ripper stage? Is that his teenage years? Does he redo Ripper? Is it like him and an elderly like Ethan Crane like drinking beers?
No, he's just little and he's just upset that he has to be an adult in this body and no one really takes him seriously because he's just teeny tiny. But he's not Ripper Giles again. Willow can fly. That's cool, right?
Of course she can. Willow can do anything.
She's a witch. Is she on a broom?
No, there's no broom. There's no firebolt. There's a male vampire slayer called Billy. We get Billy the Vampire Slayer.
Is he just like an alternate universe version of Buffy, and then like they totally hook up?
No, it's just kind of out of nowhere. Like we get this issue where one of the comic issues where we just see Billy, and he doesn't have like the strength or the skill or anything like that. He just wants to fight vampires, and we find out that the first Slayer is like, "Hey, you're cool, so we're gonna consider you as an honorary Slayer, and I'm gonna give you like access to like some of the knowledge we have." And then Buffy kind of just like says, "Hey, let's join our team." He's a bit of a Gary Stu.
Wait. So they don't do that for Gunn, who is like the OG, like, I don't have powers, but I'm going to get rid of all these Slayers in LA, vampires in LA. But they do it for Billy.
It's pretty
And
stupid.
First Slayer has weird priorities.
Is Angel's annoying son still alive, or does he come back and annoy?
Oh,
I don't recall any Connor at all.
That's good. That's a good thing because I tried to block Connor from my memory.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't remember hating him as much as most people. Like him and Dawn get a lot of hate. Connor did some really stupid shit, but I thought he could have been. They didn't have to get rid of him from the show because season 5 they just booted him.
Yeah, no. Connor is just like a pile of wasted potential, and then he has sex with Cordelia.
Yeah,
that was
right. And then he's also just the actor portraying him was just so annoying. So that didn't help.
I know he was like a
Dawn,
heroine, like
she's kinda
Edward
charming.
Furlong.
Oh yeah. That look, that petulant, like a Jesse Eisenberg feel.
Yeah.
Like you can only play characters.
Yeah, like
that
he
are
was born with a
obnoxious.
trust fund and doesn't understand why you won't give up your seat on the bus for him, even though
Exactly,
you're
exactly.
crippled.
What else happened? Buffy time travels to the future where she meets up with a Slayer from the future. Also, Dark Willow is still alive in this future, and Buffy kills her.
Does she find out why Dark Willow still exists? Does she try and prevent Willow from going dark again?
They explained it in season 12 because it happens in season 7, and everyone's like, "What was that all about?" But I think it was something where she had to live that long and die to fix some mistake with magic because they destroyed magic at the end of season 7. And
They destroyed magic. Wait. They destroyed magic?
there's a thing called the Seed of Magic, and it's being protected by the Master from the first season. And they
Wait, no. Okay, so the Master
What?
comes back?
the Master's still
Yeah.
alive. Pretty much every villain that died is back in the comics. And they kill the Master again. They destroy the Seed of Magic, and this is the same part where Angel kills Giles.
Interesting. So I'm looking at some interesting covers from these comic books. What's going on with that one on the right there, huh? What kind of creature is that?
Oh,
I don't know what's going on.
What is her name? Is it Saja Vasuki? I can't remember. I can't remember her actual name. But in the between season 7 and 8, Willow goes on some sort of magical walkabout through these different dimensions, and she encounters the character you see there, and that becomes her teacher. She trains her in magic. Increases her powers and all that, and also they get into a sexual relationship. But as you can see,
Yeah, so she's sowing her oats with a wood nymph or something. Oh, a snake. Okay, huh?
No, it kind of
Looks like a snake.
Willow and Poison Ivy hooked up.
Yes, she's a very big
Like Poison Ivy, the Batman version, with Poison Ivy, the Batman version, what she wishes she looks like.
Yeah.
But she gets into this relationship with her, but at the same time she's still with Kennedy. So she cheats on her, but she never reveals that she did. And it gets pretty awkward because the snake lady is really in love with her, and Willow
Different
just feel
realms,
bad.
bro. Doesn't count.
It definitely does. But she breaks it off with her, and the snake lady gets upset.
Sorry, different realms. I'm still on that. Yeah. No. There has to be a dimension clause. Hell, I have a country clause with my partner.
I mean, if you guys agree to it, cool. But and also
Exactly. It just means that you always go on holiday together. It's fun.
Wait, you said you have a country clause?
Yeah, if you're in a different country without them, it don't count.
Mm.
You could even just be
Why?
continent, because your country's a continent, so it sounds bigger, but it's not.
Exactly. No, it just means that we always go on holiday together. It's nice. It's that
Exactly. But speaking of interesting sexual relationships, Buffy has a lesbian relationship with another Slayer. Mm-hmm.
Does she dream about Angel the whole time?
Yeah.
It's she does have a dream about Angel and having like a threesome with Spike. But yeah, they one of the Slayers is in love with her, and she ends up having sex with her, and but Buffy realizes that she's not. Of course, she's not like bisexual. She's just having this experience with her, and Willow kind of gets upset because she feels like Buffy's using her, and she kind of is, because Buffy's like, I want sex, but I can't get a man. Oh, hey, it's kind of like Danny with Eerie. She has
It was kind of
she
like
has
Buffy
desires.
and Spike. She's like, can't really get some. I've just died and been resurrected, and I was in heaven, and I need to feel something again. Hey, you there, who has a weird crush on me? Why not? So yeah, that's totally in Buffy's character.
Yeah.
Because she's awful.
Yeah, she's very sex positive.
But if she eventually
Two very different opinions there.
But she ends up breaking it off with her, and the Slayer, I forget her name, she goes off to join Kennedy's group of Slayers, and that's the end of that.
Wait, is there a gay Slayer cell now? So like Kennedy just recruits all the gay Slayers?
Honestly, I think that's what happened. I'm not sure, but I do know that Kennedy is aware of the relationship between Buffy and that Slayer, and she gives her, like, you know, lesbian to lesbian advice on that sort of thing. But I'm not sure if they're all lesbians in that cell. But remember Adam from season? Not Adam. What is his name?
Or
Warren from season 6. The guy who
yeah.
Willow took his skin off. He comes back. He's still alive.
No.
Yep.
Warren was like the only actual evil one in there.
Yeah, because it was Jonathan was just...
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I remember him.
Yeah,
I had to look him up.
The witch saved him after Willow took his skin off, and she kept him alive. So now he's a skinless creature that plagues Buffy.
Don't go to hospital and get skin grafts. Go to a witch. You get to keep the no skin look.
I don't get why she didn't just give him new skin. Why does he have to be through the comics like this like slab of meat?
Why doesn't he go to hospital and just get spray on the skin?
Spray.
Red Skull's really popular these days.
Maybe that's what they were going for. Yeah. I can see that. Is there anything else that's just outrageously stupid that I can bring up? No, I think that's it. So yeah, the comics, they get really crazy. I mean, when you don't have a television show budget, you can just draw whatever you want. Oh, Buffy does learn to fly herself for a little bit, but then she stops.
The comics just sound like just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And that's exactly what it is.
Look, there were like 4 people reading, and they had to do something to get people to read, I'm sure.
It was just me and 3 other people.
I'm so glad I illegally downloaded them and then never read them.
I would remember seeing them at the comic book store, and I'd just be like, I don't know. That's something about comics where they're using like the image of an actor. Just I for some reason I'm just not into it. Like when they have comics from the Marvel movies or whatever, I'm just like, you know. If it was more of like an artistic drawing of that character, you know, it might be a little easier to connect with. But
I just really like the show so much that when I was in a comic book store and I saw it, I was like, where has this been? It's been 2 years since Buffy, and I'm just now hearing about this. And I think I was drawn to it because like the characters look just like them, so I can just play out in my head this show is still going.
you think you were, yeah.
But
I know I definitely had been interested in the, like, at least like the Angel comics for a while. Just be like, well, what the hell happened? You know, I think I read a Wikipedia article one time like years ago, but that was about it.
That's the best way to, I guess, consume the story is just read the Wikipedia, because it's really not worth reading the actual. It kind of makes you mad because it just changes so much that's been established on the show. Like at season 7, it ends with Buffy being able to live her own life because there are thousands of other Slayers out there, but by season 7, by the end of that season, like hundreds of them have been killed because they want to bring the story back into a more like smaller. So like Buffy is not just she's back
More
to being by
reliant
herself
on her.
again. Yeah, she's back to being, it's not that she can just sit back and do nothing, because if she can, then why doesn't she? So they give her more of a challenge by saying, hey, you know what, the Slayers they kill a bunch of them off, and then the Slayers end up not liking Buffy. So she's isolated, she's by herself again.
Right, because that makes sense.
I
always hate any story. I hate where they do things that are very clearly just because like they want to facilitate a particular plot device instead of facilitating like proper character motivations or what would happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to find a way to take away someone's phone so they can be out of contact, or stupid stuff where you're just like, well, it just because it feels so unnatural. Because I'm like, I see what you're doing. You needed to set up a situation, and you kind of went out of your way to do it.
Yeah.
Even if the people that your characters, I don't think would actually act that way.
No, it's real. It's a big like slap in the face to season 7 and everything that they work towards, and then the end of it, it's not. It's just like, why did you even write this? But those are the comics, and again, read the Wikipedia. Whoever's listening, if you want to get into the comics, I suggest just reading the Wikipedia or just going online to find them. I wouldn't spend money on them. Not worth it.
At the end of like Angel, he brought hell on Earth essentially, so there's shit to do. Does that ever impact on Buffy's thing? They're like, oh cool, like there's hell on Earth in LA, let's go sort that shit out.
From what I can remember, it's sort of like in a bubble, like a literal like. Well, wait. I think from the outside world, LA looks fine, but in LA, if you're in there, it's hell. I think
also, it's like real life.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how they get around it.
Sorry. Yeah. LA looks really good. Everyone says move to LA, and then you go there, and apparently it's horrible. Apparently. It's just, yeah.
I've never been, so I don't know.
Whatever happened to Oz, guys? Does Oz come back? If everybody comes back, he comes back, right?
He does. He actually comes back. Because of what's wrong, Donna?
No, I really like Oz, and I'm like, oh god, voice of reason, yay, Oz comes back, and then I feel like you're gonna say something, and I'm just gonna be like, oh god,
like,
why did they bring Oz back?
He comes back and he's evil, and he has women chained in his mansion, R. Kelly style.
God, no, he's not evil. Actually, they do his story justice, because he was a werewolf, and he went to go live, I think it's in a monastery in the mountains somewhere, and he learns how to turn it off and on at will. So Buffy and all the Slayers they're being hunted by Twilight and a bunch of different demonic forces and government forces. So they go to Oz so he can teach them how to turn off being a Slayer so they won't be detected by Twilight. It makes no sense, but that's where Buffy learns to fly.
It's standard Dragon Ball Z rules. They gotta hide their power levels. I mean,
Wait. So if he's in a monastery, does that mean like when he is a werewolf, there's just like an awkward amount of shaving to do?
I think they're all werewolves there, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, everyone has hair.
I imagine this monastery as like one big Teen Wolf like frat party. That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah,
There's a basketball court.
Yeah, but
that's all I remember about Teen Wolf. Sorry.
Yeah, I never watched that show. I mean, I figured it sounds like something I would like because Buffy and Angel and all that.
No, not the show. The movie. I don't know anything about the show. Michael J. Fox movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I think the TV show was like earnest and dark.
It was I guess it was touching on more on Twilight than the actual source material. But I think that can wrap up the pre-show, after-show. All of this was just nonsense. Comics, don't recommend them to anybody. Now we're going to get into the actual main episode. Thank you all for listening, and have a good one.